Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of Third Man In, brought to you by Head Check Health. We're getting close on double digits. We're at, technically, if you want to play it, because there was some confusion even amongst ourselves last week because we did a bonus episode. But this is, in fact, episode 9, and I am here. I'm Mike Hickey, and I am joined by...
It's Charles.
And, of course...
Terry Ryan.
And, boys, how's your week been? I mean, it's been a couple days because we only recorded, the other night, really.
It's been good. One thing I'm going to say, though, the bonus episode, we really, really whiffed on it. TR wasn't in town with us. We should have just called it Two Man In. We whiffed on that. That was a loss, in my opinion.
Well, you got really big on me doing that whole Back to the Future graphic.
Oh, yeah.
And
because
so
we were making
just
predictions.
Got stuck with it. But now the third man is, in fact, in, and so our title makes more sense. And
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Guys, first of all, can you hear me fine?
I can hear you best kind. Yeah.
I can't hear you I can't hear you very well. I mean, I can hear you because you're right in front of me, but I can't hear you on my...
on the phone.
I think I have your headphones, cranked.
Do you?
Yeah,
1,
should
2,
be.
3. Well, hey, I can hear fine, so yeah, okay. Now, there it is.
Yeah, we're good. I can hear everyone's coming in loud and clear on my end.
So anyway, I mean, that's not very exciting for everybody. There's some great radio time right there. No, but listen, my week was okay.
The show was going to be 4 hours long.
When did we record fucking Colburn?
It was like Tuesday night.
What? Yeah, it was Pancake Day.
To give people context, this is Saturday, and usually we do it every Saturday, but because of my trip to Tri-City, which I will get to, and that's Kennewick, Richland, Pasco, Washington, a lot of people have messaged me and asked me that, and I'll get into it in a little bit, but I had to come back and work with the TV show Hudson and Rex all week, and we had a crazy week. I'm a set dresser, and they got mixed up, so and last night we had game 3 of the playoffs. We lost to Clarenville, so tonight in Clarenville, game 4, we're down 3-0, but anything can happen, and anyway, it's been that kind of week.
Madness. But we really want to get talking to you about Tri-City and the trip there and everything. So let's get right into it, guys. I guess let's go right into our Oh Baby moments of the week because I got a feeling that's going to be TR's. So let's get started. Let's just go straight into the Bob Cole Oh Baby moment of the week. Oh Baby! TR, tell us about. Let's get you started with you because usually we come around to you. Let's just get fucking started.
Fair enough.
Into this.
Well, it was great. I went, so last weekend, the Tri-City Americans had me back. They flew me out to Kennewick, Washington, which is, again, about an hour and a half southwest of Spokane and about 2.5 maybe southeast of Seattle.
By car?
By car. It's great. It's really on the Oregon border. But the same distance from Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington. And you see, I played junior there, and it's a tough place to get back to, but it was a magical place for me for a lot of reasons. Tri-City, first of all, is, as we mentioned, it's in Washington State. So of the whole Canadian Hockey League, there's not a whole lot of teams that are based in the United States, but the Western League is a whole division. It's the U.S. division. Seattle, Spokane, when I was there, it was Tacoma, but they're moved to Kelowna. Now I think it's Everett or there. Tri-City's Portland. So it's a magical place for me for a lot of reasons. I was there during the team's 5th year, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever it might have been. I was there for 4 years altogether, parts of. And they were just getting to know hockey, so they didn't necessarily know all the best players in the NHL. There wasn't many ice surfaces. Actually, it was only the one we played on. So it was different to go back because now there's a minor hockey system set up. There's same kind of thing happened in Phoenix on a major level. Austin Matthews comes out this year. I've talked about it a few years ago. And, it's probably a result of when Phoenix went there and, minor hockey started. The same thing in Tri-Cities. But now it's 30 years later. This is the 31st year. So they had top 30 players in 30 years. I was selected as one, and I don't think there was any particular order, but it always felt like a family. To me in Tri-Cities, even the alumni and everybody, because again, it's way off the beaten path. You play anywhere, you play in the OHL, you take for granted you're in this massive hockeyville, wherever you go, everybody knows everybody on the Leafs and everybody in the NHL, and they're hockey mad. Well, Tri-Cities fans are Tri-City mad. They're big time. They support the Americans. It was emotional because to them, of course, I went ahead of Jarome Iginla. In my head, I'd closed that chapter a little bit because, after going so high in the NHL draft and then, in a lot of people's minds failing, I don't mind using that word, although, a lot of it was out of my hands, especially the injuries. But, None of that matters to them. Like, when I'm there. And so in my head, I just, I know my capabilities, and I'll always say it. I know I should have played longer in the NHL. I played my cards wrong, combined with injuries, but I definitely did. And the people, so, I didn't really just think about the impact I had to all the people in Tri-Cities and everything else. And I had to, in my draft year, guys, everything went right. Shortly after, everything went wrong, but everything went right. I got my 50th goal, personally and team-wise. I got my 50th goal with 28 seconds left in the season, right? Like 48 goals going into my final period, and they're like, and I'd scored a few overtime goals that year. I led the Western League in game-winning goals, overtime goals. Like, it was just, I always seemed to be Johnny on the spot. It was my draft year. The year before, I had 33 points. This year, I have 110, 16 goals to 50. So, like, not only did that happen, okay, so all the timing, I got the biggest goal arguably in franchise history. Olaf Kolzig scored an empty netter, a goalie. So that was a big goal. But at least for team-wise, I scored the Game 7 goal against Spokane to put us further than we'd ever been at that point, and still they haven't won it. So one of the furthest they've ever been, which was to the division final against Kamloops. They had a splendid team. So that, so me personally, team-wise and everything, this was a magical year. Now, guys, I don't know if I've ever told this on here. We had a buddy that died, Todd Klassen. That's why I wear 14 a lot on ball hockey, and in the Canadians, that's why it's tattooed on my chest. People think that's my choice. No, well, it is, but Todd Klassen was our captain. He was drafted to Pittsburgh, and I got to know him a lot. The team wanted that. When they drafted me, meet Todd. He's the epitome of a pro. He's a great leader, all that jazz. So Todd died. So I started a scholarship fund. Every goal I get, I challenge fans to donate money, whether it's $5 or $1,000, whatever it might be, to the person who best exemplifies Todd's qualities at Kamaikan High School, where I graduated from. So during that magical season, like, a lot of people didn't know hockey, so they don't realize I'm 16 years old. I had 16 goals. I'm probably going to get more as a 17-year-old, right? But I don't think anybody thought 50. Like, I was thinking maybe 20 to 25, maybe 30 would be great. So a lot of people, and a lot of people are just good people. So every time I scored, the place went bananas so I became a symbol of positive energy. And I'm trying to tell you this objectively, because obviously this sounds, you could take it as egotistical, but I'm just telling you what I mean to that place and what they mean to me. So every goal, so then that led to individual statistics going through the roof, because, like I told you, I had a hat trick on an empty net. Well, of course, my coach would put me out there knowing that, Terry's a great positive guy. I was pretty good defensively, but you could have made an argument to put other guys out there. But if I get an empty netter, Todd's scholarship gets $5,000 more, and we blew it like through the roof. Like, some kids, this thing went all the way till like 2 years ago, and they just changed the name of the charity, but that's still going. So
do they pick like a different player each season, or?
Yeah, it's not even a player. It's a person from Kamaikan High School. At least it wasn't when I was there. I don't know if they changed it, but it's not necessarily a player, because we all got our schooling anyway.
No, but I mean, like, in terms of what feeds the scholarship.
Oh, yes,
like,
yes.
They pick a player on the team.
They changed it every
year.
Say,
like, this guy this season will be the one that,
exactly.
$5 or whatever it is from every goal he scores. Okay, cool.
And his best buddy on the team at that time was Dean Tilchin. And Dean had 50 goals, but Tri-City, in order to move up and draft me, traded Dean for me.
Okay.
So Dean would have done that on his own. I got together with Dean Tilchin, and we talked about it, and that's what we came up with. We were going to do a golf tournament, but that seemed really run of the mill, and like, that's what everybody does. So I remember Dean saying, "But you're playing on the team."
Yeah.
He's like, every time you score, like, it could be so. Even the goal in overtime against Spokane, it's on YouTube there. I fired it out a few times. You guys saw it. I mean, it's so emotional.
Oh yeah,
to me,
that's the one that even the team shared that one last week, getting ready for Terry
that's
Ryan
the one,
night.
right?
Yeah,
That's will live on in history there. That was just the greatest moment for the friend. I mean, the year before that, we made the playoffs and the last day of the year, and every team but one made the playoffs. We were one of the worst teams in the league, second worst technically. And, so we went to that point, and not only did that goal was great for me, it was great for the team, and it was great for the Todd Klassen Memorial Fund. So that goal sums up to me everything in Tri-Cities. So I go back there, guys, not 5 years later, 25 years later.
Wow. And is it your first trip back?
My first trip back. So
wow.
I drove through. I planned on going. It's just so far out of the way. And when you're working, I've had 3 trips had to be canceled. And when I played in Idaho, I planned on going up there more. I did drive up one day to see my old billets, give them a hug.
Yeah.
We went to eat, and I left. So I guess I was there one day in 2002. But I thought I'd play all year in Boise, but I didn't. I got hurt, and that was the year I had the ankle injury.
Right.
So I hadn't, and I want to get back, but everybody else, most guys were from Edmonton. That's where most of the scouts were, like Sheldon Surrey, Damon Lankow, you would have heard of. Brian Boucher was like me. He's the goalie. He was first rounder.
Isn't Boucher like?
No, he's from Moonsocket, Rhode Island, by the way. But we were the 2 outside.
Yeah, but didn't Boucher? I feel like Boucher went on like a ridiculous.
Yeah, the record
shutout.
for shutout.
Yeah, he's
five
got
games straight.
He did. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And Boucher made a great career. He's a great commentator now with Fox Philadelphia. But Boucher was a great backup his whole career. But that's because he was a starter. I mean, Boucher was the MVP for our team one year. And, he was the first round. People remember me and Lanks going 5th and 8th. Bush went 21st. And I posted those pictures from Tri-City, and they have 50-goal scores, 100-point scores, first-round picks. And I still say it. I mean, 3 first-round picks from one team in one year. It was a record at that time.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's had 4. It seems, there's 70-odd teams in the Canadian Hockey League. Then you got Europe. Then you got the USHL. Then you got college.
And especially since that time, too, like... it was the late 80s was when Europe really started to kind of get into the NHL more. And so it's much less likely now for a junior team to feed that many people.
You're right.
I think the Sarnia Sting have like a ridiculous success rate with like Sarnia and the London Knights.
I was going to say London and
big.
I would guess London
have
might
big success rates with like guys like Marner played for the Knights.
Kadri.
Stamkos played for the Sting. A bunch of guys like that coming through at the same time. But
Kane
I don't think anybody
played for the Knights and Robbie Schrempf. And remember when, who was it? Hunter had that team for years.
Yeah.
And that was akin to Kamloops in my day. Like I said, I was part of the Western League for 5 years, and Kamloops won the Memorial Cup 3 of those years.
Jesus.
Memorial, not just the West. This is when we ran into them, and we ran into them every year. So, and I mean, Jerome McGinley, I had better stats than him because he was on the 3rd line. Me and Lanks played every second shift some games. And this is the other thing about Tri-Cities. It was magical. Like, none of the guys on my team complained. I know some of them are listening now. On the way there, I had a great visit with a couple of my friends I'll go into in a minute. I have to. And they were good friends. And, that time, I played so much. I had 48 goals, like I said, going into the last period of the year. So you'd figure, you're not going to get 2 goals in a period. The odds are against me. But my coach played me. He took 2 timeouts. Where there was TV timeouts. He played me like 18 minutes, and no one complained. It was insane. We're not talking, the guys, this was 60 years ago. It was the same ice time, breakdowns as it is now. And it might be a bit of an exaggeration, 18, no less than 15. I scored a shorthander with about 9 minutes, and he looked down. He said, do you need a timeout, Terry? That's what my coach said to me, Bob Laux. And the whole team stood up. And then I realized I started to get goosebumps. It was about 9 minutes left in the game, and I realized the boys are all trying to get me my 50th.
That's cool.
Just as a quick aside here, your coach Bob Laux.
Yeah.
Scott Laux played for the Kamloops Blazers at the same time.
His son.
Is his son? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was looking at some Kamloops Blazers stuff while we were talking about it.
Scotty
So
was a great player.
Yeah.
Bob Laux used to be a wrestler, a Little Brutus. He didn't want anybody to know that at that point. And one time I called him Little Brutus, and I got in trouble. But we had a lot of fun. But that's the kind of guy. He was like a buddy. Like, he was this real tough-looking ex-wrestler, really knew hockey. And but that was it. He looked down and said, do you need a timeout? And I went, oh my God, the boys are playing for me. And it was such a feeling. And then with 28 seconds left, and that's on YouTube, the puck just comes to me in the slot. Lanks throws it at the net, and it just got stuck there. It was honestly like, not an open net, but it was delivered. It was like it was meant to happen. And I proceeded to do the Chichi Rodriguez, they called it, down the ice. I used to celebrate goals big time. Used to do the canoe, whatever it might be, the fisherman down the ice. And the fans really embraced me. And the draft was in Edmonton, 14 hours from Tri-Cities. My draft was, and they, like, I don't know, over 100 people drove up, man.
Wow.
There's probably more than that. I just remember there being buses of people
That's
to support
incredible.
us. And so And, I come back here and I had to justify for years, not justify. That was one of the things I had to do. My talents, I guess you could say, because people thought maybe I had anxiety attacks or they didn't know what happened. Or I got into the drugs or something, but, I kind of fell off the map. So in my head, in 2005, when I went on that reality show and lost a bunch of weight and, I'd been divorced and it wasn't just the NHL that bothered me that I couldn't play. I mean, that did. But I knew I could play, but I wanted to travel. I'm into history. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to play, and I had a contract lined up with Bracknell in London. That was going to be my first stop, and then I was going to go on from there, and my ankle just couldn't handle it. So I had to close, and I put on a lot of weight, went up to 258. I'm about 195, 200 now. So just to give you an idea, and I won the championship in Orlando in 2003, I think it was. My wife left me shortly after, at the time, my wife, and came home and wanted to keep playing. I love hockey. Like I said, I'm still playing senior, so it really, really upset me, and I put a lot of it, I packaged it up about all the great things that I did in the game and it's in Tri-Cities and all that. I'm not saying I ignored it, but I didn't revisit it. And then all of a sudden going back, and it was like stepping into this role that I'd almost convinced myself that didn't exist, but to the people there, a person, they were so loving and you know what, it wasn't kind of what happened. It was, oh, Terry, like, congrats, you played in the NHL. and then it would be like, when I try to explain myself, yeah, but I wish I'd played, they're like, of course, we figured something happened. Again,
that's so cool.
And
That's
to them,
so
yeah, that's
totally
especially because again, like, cause you moved away at like 14 to go play, and then you came back and you've been in Newfoundland kind of as your base of like your point of operation. Like, this is where you kind of work out of for the last 20 years. And here, everyone is, God love them, it's what everyone here can be like, and they're just and it's like that. What the fuck happened and whatever, and there's like that thing, whereas they see so many players come through Tri-City. It's just, yes, you were great when you were here, it didn't work out for you up there, but you were fucking great here and we love you for it. And that's cool, and that's so great.
And they cared what kind of human I'd become, and that, to me, that was the first and foremost. Like, it was a loving, it was the feeling wasn't based on goals and assists, even though it could have been, because that's the most success I ever had. But they just remembered. I don't even think, they remembered I had 50 goals. They know that I was one of the best players on the team, but they remember the goal celebrations and sticking around. After that game that you saw in the highlight on the YouTube, well, we stuck around, and the fans all stuck around, and they came down and they put their hands over the boards, and we ran around high-fiving all of them for what seemed like hours. But it was as if I've seen lesser celebrations for the Stanley Cup championship. Like, it was that much emotion, and they loved us so much. Well, guys, each guy when I was there on the team had a billet booster buddy. So I got all these pictures. You should see the booster books I got. I got like scrapbooks that are this big, like hundreds of pages big. Every article that I was mentioned in, everybody had one. Everybody on the team had a booster buddy. So they were responsible for giving you, taking pictures during the game, for giving you articles, for giving you my first billets. And I'm not kidding you here. These people I moved out of because I didn't get along with them. They bought me a car. A Dodge Lancer.
Whoa.
That's Tri-Cities. Everybody had a booster. There was a girl, Sylvia, that bought me 6 suits. This is just, she said, oh, you're coming. I'm from Newfoundland, right? Like, I went to Quesnell. We didn't, Dad told me growing up, you wear a suit to the game. I used to have a little leather fucking tie. And
bow tie?
Like a tie?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was St. Bonds. It was my St. Bonds fucking stuff I would wear. So that's a school here that I went to, for those who don't know. But, I didn't have much, and I went down there, and we were middle class. Mom worked for minimum wage. Dad was a teacher, but they had to come out west with me for a couple of years, and like all their money went to that. Dad scouted for a bit and everything, but they didn't have a lot of extra money, so I never asked him for his suits or anything like that. I went down there. First thing, Sylvia says, God bless her soul, she's passed away now. She says, you got to be set up, and you got to look good. You look good, feel good, play good. I said, okay, look good, feel good, play good. Let's go to the mall. We went. I thought she was going to buy me like one suit. She bought me 6 suits. She did this for a lot of people on the team. And on top of that, we all had booster buddies. We'd have free. Everything was free. Everything. And it was, It was absolute, and so you can imagine a bunch of kids from Canada, how much fun we had
in the States
and
with
the friends.
that,
Yes, and I will finish by saying this. So on the way there, I ran into a couple of my buddies that are huge fans of the show, by the way. Mark Hurley and Mike Hurley, they were brothers when I played there. And Mike, I told a story in my book.
Boys.
Thanks, boys.
Oh yeah, they listen a lot. They're definitely listening right now. And Mark was a great player. Mark's a little small in that era. It's bad, you know. He was a Johnny Gaudreau type of creative guy, about 5'9". It was hard for him to have. I can't say a lot of success because he did. Mark had like close to a point a game a couple times in the dub, but and went on to win the University Canadian title with Edmonton and went to Europe and had a decent spell over there.
Nice.
But just in today's, back then in the West that was harder than even the AHL. I've often said it for a smaller guy. And Mike, trivia here. 50 goals. He had 42, I think, with Tri-City. He gets traded to Portland, and I believe Portland played one extra game, so you could play 72 games. Mike played 73 that year, I believe, but he had 50 goals, and he played with Hossa in Portland.
Whoa.
And that's a story I told you in my book. Mike got paralyzed a few years ago. He had a golf cart accident.
Oh, Jesus.
So, and I thought, yeah, I know, it's bad, but you know what? Like, I expected, this was like 10 years ago it happened, right? So, I expected the first time I saw Mike, like him to be really down about it and everything. And he wasn't. It had just happened, but we had a great visit, and I mentioned that in my book. But this time would be the second time I was back to see the boys because a long time has gone on in between. Usually I'm in Edmonton, or at least I see them. We're family, like I said. And, you know, a few more guys came out. But Mike is doing great, man. He looks great. The boys look awesome. Mike, if anything, I ribbed him a little bit. He's completely over the fact that he's, can't move his legs. I almost get goosebumps when I say it because he's such a good guy. But Mike, look, he's living life. First thing he said to me, he goes, "Noof, though, I could be fucking dead." And I'm like,
hey,
yeah,
boy.
So, and he's doing these great things. So, he's researched. So Mike can golf. He's got these, mechanical, I can't explain it, but those, because he moves his arms and everything, and he's a great athlete, so he's become a phenomenal golfer. Sledge hockey, whatever it would be. Mike's one of these two guys. That's are that great. Guy, like here's a soccer ball, and they go out and be the best guy on the field, you know what I mean? So anyway, Mike, for those who read my book, a lot of people ask me about Mike, and much like my career, when they go, oh, like, too bad, and I'll go, well, I did play in the NHL, Mike, the same thing. A lot of people go, oh, shucks, like, too bad what happened. He's like, I'm alive, So for Mike, I'm positive now seeing him that he's doing great. I figured I'd let everybody know because I get a lot of questions with the book. And I also saw my good buddy Taran Sandwith, who listens to every episode. Sandman, who played down here in St. John's and played in Tri-Cities, was my teammate with St. John's. And Boyd Olson, who played in Fredericton with Ash and I. And we had a blast just catching up. Back in the day, it would have been shots and cheap drinks and dance floors, but we had so much to say that we sat down over a meal and talked about it. And it was, those guys were from that era, so it felt like a nice segue into Tri-Cities. I flew out to Edmonton for a night and then went down. So anyway, that was a long explanation, but a lot was covered, and a lot of what I just said is often asked to me. I get these, we get some tweets. Well, I also do. I'm sure we all get the messages, right? And a lot of people have asked me what Tri-City even was. Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, Washington.
I love how in the middle of that TR, you're like, I still play. For those listening, this is going to come out on Tuesday. TR literally has a puck drop in like 7 hours?
Yeah.
TR? Like,
in Clarenville.
Yeah,
2 hours away.
So he's got like a 2-hour drive. He's like, yeah, I still play from time to time. It's like, in exactly 7 hours, I will be in full suit.
Game.
I will be in a playoff game.
There is something that came out of that, though, TR, that I want to chat to you about, because it's something that came up Tuesday night. I don't know. It wasn't Tuesday night. I think it was part of the bonus episode that you weren't here for last week. We got talking a little bit about Sidney Crosby and how Crosby has kind of started showing a little bit more of who Sidney Crosby is over the last season or so. Like, he seems like he's kind of Crosby seemed like a very guarded person who was just so concerned with being the face of the NHL. From the time he was 12, he was just prepping to be that person.
Who we think he is, Mike. He's got a standing invite.
And now we're starting to see a little bit more of that, but we're also starting to see a little bit more of that color and personality come back into the league that seemed like it had kind of been whitewashed out for a few years, where they were just trying to have a bit more broad appeal. But it sounds like a lot of what the magic was for you guys in Tri-City was you guys being these big personalities.
Yeah, huge.
And so we didn't, but because you weren't here for that, I just want to talk to you about that level of personality in the game. I mean, it's what hockey was for so long. You had all these ridiculously colorful characters who were just, you see Slapshot, you know what's
afros and mustaches,
and it's all that sort of thing. And it seems like they kind of they tried to take that out of the game for a long time. But do you think that do you think that had anything to do as well with the trajectory your career through the NHL and AHL took? Do you think suppressing those kinds of big personalities was part of that?
I do. Well, with me, you see, the only time I ever had a problem was Montreal/Fredericton. There was a communication breakdown. It's how do I explain it? I'm not even knocking them for that. I should have known the difference as well. I could tell when it was going on, and I became spitey. And, asking for a trade instead of just really addressing the situation, which was exactly that. I was a big personality. And in the Western League especially, I mean, like I said, there was with
Hot
fighting and with
Chico Rodriguez
with goal celebrations comes that, right? And my coach from that era, Bob Lauk, who I just told you about, and Bob didn't go on to the NHL, but he was a good motivator. I wouldn't even say the best X's and O's. Don Hay might have been that for our division. But Bob was a good motivator. Great motivator. And I remember him saying to me, he'd say, the game of hockey brings with it so much energy.
Yeah.
And he'd say, it's up to you to harness that energy the right way. Now, if you do, you're going to have a team that's going to win more games than not at the end of the year on emotion. So if you've got a 500 team, but they're passionate and they bring it and they harness their energy the right way, then they become a playoff team. If they don't, if a cancer comes in and harnesses the energy the right way after practice, saying, well, the coach is this or that, or I should be playing this, same amount of talent, then you go the other way.
Yeah.
Because in any of these leagues, there's a lot of parity. Every team is set up the same. So I think that I don't think it'll ever stop as analytical as we get, and the game can get more analytical. It's definitely that as we see it's happening. But I think not only is there always room for personality, I think the teams that win generally will have more passion, more high energy. As much as I shit on Marchand, are you kidding me that that's not a big part of why they won?
And also the Twitter feud Marchand has going with Corey Krug. That's like my favorite.
I hear you.
That's pretty good.
But even from that, looking at, I know we talked a couple weeks ago.
By the way, one last thing, because I don't want to lose this thought.
Yeah.
That's a guy that does both, though.
Yeah.
He can if he harnesses his energy the wrong way and starts licking guys and stuff, they lose.
Yeah.
Right?
So Jekyll Hyde.
That's what I
thing
mean.
there,
like within me, like my coach used to say,
Yeah.
is both.
Yeah.
I could also, if I'm pissed off, guys, I can turn around and fucking spare a guy or go fuck yourself, call someone, I won't say racist, but like I can be real bad. Like every bit someone calling me a newfie, I can say the same, you fucking cocksucking fucking nobody. And then why? Because he hooked me? So, but if I harness that energy the right way and shake, he's also, ask any ref around here, I shake their hands at the end of the games because that,
good move.
Well, but what it does though, it flushes all that shit out.
Yeah.
So
it's also just like leave it on the fucking ice, right?
Yeah, you leave it on the ice.
Like
but
I can chirp and I'll do it especially like if I'm pissed about something, and I mean I'm playing fucking beer league, but if I get pissed and rattled about something in the run of a game, and I'm
Mike sends threatening letters,
and
actually.
I'm calling the ref a fucking plug, and I'm saying that he couldn't fucking call collect and whatever the fuck you're getting on with. And I'm saying all that stuff. I will go out of my way at the end of the game to say what, thanks for the game, Mr. Ref, appreciate it.
Even if you make a habit of it, then if you make a habit and you do it every game, then trust me, even when things are good, it's easy.
Yeah.
But when a ref fucking throws you out or makes a bad call and you lose, because you're pissed off and you go into the
TR, how frequently are you getting thrown out of games?
Oh, lots.
Well, back then
I saw TR. I remember
back then a lot.
I remember TR is playing Clarenville tonight.
Yeah.
I remember being in Clarenville for an exhibition game in I guess it was February of 2006. It was an exhibition game because Clarenville didn't have a fucking team yet. They were going to have a
trying
team
to
the
get a
next
team.
season. So the Mount Pearl Blades, where Terry was the captain and his father was the coach, came out to play an exhibition game for him. I happened to be in Clarenville for some meetings and shit that weekend. And so a bunch of us went, we said, fuck it, we're going to go watch the senior game. So we go watch the senior hockey game. And in this exhibition game where Clarenville is deciding if they're going to have a team. And I mean, this is the old Clarenville rink where they even had the fucking curling lines and rings out on the same ice as the hockey.
Again, exhibition.
Exhibition game.
We have our fucking equipment manager dressed. David Roper, who's with the Leafs now. Rope Dog shout out. Here you go. When Roper doesn't play, he can skate. He plays rec.
And anyway, I can't even remember. I can't even remember what kind of the inciting thing was, but there was a bench clearing brawl where TR and his father both got thrown out of the game.
Oh, no way.
Helmet, threw it off a guy's fucking melon right going off the ice. This wasn't even this, what, 10 years ago, was it?
2006. Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, from what I heard about senior, I expect him to get thrown out of like the first period in an
but this is the
game.
fucking thing. We were going out to do them a favor. Now, I ended up playing 2 years for Clarenville, and they're moved into a state-of-the-art building. It would be a good junior A building, man. It's heated floors all the way around.
But this is like
seats.
This was like the interest check game where they're like, we're going to sell the tickets that we're going to
ticket
sell on the
drive.
door.
Well,
are going to go into financing the team
and
for
the
next year.
guys try to put it up. Now, this is the thing. Okay, you know how many penalty minutes I had this year? 2. When I played
with you, oh how the mighty have fallen.
Well, last year I had 0. Well, the Caps need me to score. It's all different. Wherever you play. And back then too, it was the same thing. When I play senior hockey, outside of like a couple of years playing for Gander and trying to go to the Allen Cup and playing a role, I'm scoring, and I'm not by nature. I'm telling you, even in the West, if something happens, what would piss me off, I don't want to be intimidated.
Yeah. And
I don't like that. I don't like people, and it's a flaw of mine. People say I fought too much. I'm not blaming. Like Tyrion's the only guy who gave me the fucking tap. But I would have gotten, I got 34 that year, but I would have gotten in 20. I know myself. And the minute someone starts fucking trying to fucking pull rank or fucking intimidate me, I lose my goddamn marbles. I don't care who they are. And that happened in Clarenville. We thought we were going out, like we got beers the night before, we got loaded. We were like, think we're coming out to have a laugh and promote this game. I didn't think there'd be a hit thrown. A hit exhibition, like what? So we came out with like 5 or 6 guys on the Blades, all of guys like Jason Hedges and myself, Grant
He said,
Kenny.
I don't know if Roper can skate, can he?
Well, he can. He plays rec hockey. Like, he didn't ever play with contact.
Yeah.
I think it would be dangerous to have him in a contact game. It was then.
Because let's not dox the Leafs trainer that can't skate when he's like sharpening blades and shit.
When Roper started not playing, he taught himself to skate like when he was older, and he was enough that we figured we'd do him a favor, like have a little bit of fun out there. Put Roper. He played with me and Jay. Like I said, we had 5 or 6 on the team that had a decent hockey resume away, right? From junior A to pro, whatever. Yeah. But the other guys, we just filled in with like our buddies and shit like that, never played hockey. So we're thinking like, for Roper got run, this is what happened.
I could have got my senior hockey game there. Fuck.
Well, you could have that night. Roper got run right off the bat. And then some guy looks at me and he's giving me, I guess he thought it was a chirp, but he looks at me from the bench and he's like, what does Ty Domi have to say about it? I'm like, are you knocking me because I fought Ty Domi in Maple Leaf Gardens?
It was their first year. They don't know how to chirp
But again, and the other thing is what was a fucking like what?
It went up.
What were the problems with that game? Is that it was a bunch of guys. Clarenville didn't technically have a team yet. So what it was a bunch of local guys who knew that they were going to bring in guys to replace them, and they were going to have a proper, what was considered at the time, from bringing people in from out of town and all that stuff, they were going to have a proper senior team. So a bunch of guys from Clarenville who got the call for that game and knew they were playing against an existing senior team, but also a former NHLer, were like, well, I'm going to show my fucking worth tonight. And they came out and they went, okay, we're going to show you who the fuck we are, so that if I get into a fucking fight and go up against the same guy who fought Ty Domi, then that's going to get me my spot on the roster next year.
Exactly
and that was the fucking problem.
And I was thinking the exact opposite. Had I known that, I wouldn't have gone. But you saw, like I said, when I get back to
I know exactly
when I get back into a corner, I'm like a fucking rat, like, and I don't give a fuck. And then I'm serious, Chuck. Like, I was coming off after fighting this guy, and I had my helmet in my head.
It's the Ty Domi guy, right?
No. I don't know. I just heard that chirp. They were really yelling. Like, it was silent. It was silent. in the anthem, when the anthem gets, and I heard one of the guys after me, "Hey Ryan, I hope your mom gets cancer." Like, what? Oh yeah,
Jesus.
It was one of those.
Oh jeez.
That's how I often tell that story.
Holy fuck.
Oh yeah, it was insane. I've only heard that twice ever. The other time was in Grand Falls. Yeah, not pro anywhere. Not pro anywhere. So I knew it was going to be a rough game. I knew this shit was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be sold out. I didn't think we were trying to raise them some money for their team. I didn't think one hit guys were going to be thrown. I thought it was going to be an exhibition.
You thought it was going to be a fucking all-star game kind of scenario.
Oh my God. Yeah. So then on the way off, this guy jumps over this was a fan because I had to go. Now this was the second game. We went out there for 2-2. The second day though, the game was at like 10 a.m. and we were like,
I didn't go to that one.
well, the thing is, it was at 2.
Yeah.
So we had beers, but then they moved it to they had to be earlier because it was a minor hockey tournament. So we're planning on
bounced for the Tigers.
We're planning on getting up at about noon, eating some toast, and going and playing this excruciating game. Both teams, though, really were hungover. It was exhibition, so again, I don't know why anybody expected any different. But then when they told us we had to play at 10, it was a next level of frustration. It sold out again, and they're yelling for my head, and I'm going, why did I get myself into this? We came out here, we agreed to play. We got paid that year. We didn't get paid for that weekend even. And I'm like, I could be home doing so much more. And these people, we kind of created this fucking thing. Anyway, I grabbed my helmet. The guy was beaking, and I fucking I threw it at him and went right off his fucking nose. It bounced into the crowd, and then it was zoo. It was a fucking zoo. They had to put the tarp over. We went into the dressing room. I had to wait. I had to wait till the arena closed. That was just like the first period. I was thrown out.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
And then they kept going. We had like 6 guys left. Some were hungover. Some tried to get thrown out. There was a brawl. We had 6 guys left. They made it like 15 to fucking 2.
Oh my Lord!
And they didn't have a great team. It's just that it was a ridiculous situation.
Running on the rims at that point.
I had to wait till 2 hours after the game.
Holy
so the parking lot cleared out to get out of the
Hogan when he dropped the leg on.
Then I ended up
7.
playing for them 3 years later.
That's pretty funny. I really wish somebody in modern day was like, what does Ty Domi think about it? Because my first thought is internet, cable, and home phone bundle. That's what Ty Domi thinks.
I should have said that. Well, I get chirped all the time. Most of the time, even that guy might have been, but the cancer thing was over the top.
Oh, jeez.
That's
once we had a black guy, Roger Maxwell. I won't say what rink, but you got a banana peel thrown at him. They're thrown at him. There was a few times like that,
gross.
But most of the time, it's I know, right? But that honestly, guys, that was an 85-year-old woman. I won't get every single person in the league knows where I'm talking about right now and knows who it is. And I don't want her. That's why I won't say the place because I don't
know who it is, right? Yeah,
and I don't want her representing everybody because there's always a bad nut or two.
Yeah,
and for the most part, man, especially I love going into Grand Falls because I'll hear it all game. I'll give it back. And I remember a few years ago, and I learned this from Todd Gillingham in Idaho. So fans chirping me, and the puck came in the bench, it got flipped into the bench. I took it, and the guy's just chirping me. So I signed it, and I threw it back at him. Gilly did that in Idaho one time and started a brawl. The puck came in, and the fans just chirping him, and instead of saying anything, Gilly signed the puck and threw it back at him, but he kind of threw it a little bit hard, and it hit the guy in the forehead. The Todd Gillingham could have his own specials too on these.
Well, but I've also always wondered that. I mean, your dad's from Grand Falls. How the Cats, I think, are the only team in Newfoundland you haven't fucking played for at this point, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess they are, and they're buddies of mine and everything else. But something always came up. First of all,
get you in a Cats jersey
4
once.
of my senior hockey years are with Mount Pearl. That's my hometown, and they never had a good team, nor did they have any fans. I just did it for that.
Yeah.
Corner Brook is like a second home to me, and Darren Colburn was out there. There's 4 more years. There's 8 years as senior.
Beautiful
And
second
I mean,
home
I
to
remember,
have.
and that's the thing is, I remember you playing for Corner Brook. I would have been just before Mount Pearl, I guess. Yeah. And so it was when I was in college at home, I remember you playing for Corner Brook, and it was kind of as the Cats were getting back on the go and senior hockey was really starting to pick up again. That was a great time to watch.
That was actually my favorite era of all the senior. I mean, I'm still playing, and I love the boys on my team and everything. But there's not as many fans that come out. Clarenville tonight now we'll hope to have 1,000, 1,200. But back in the day, it was...
and it was all...
Which wasn't that scalpers and stuff.
And
people laugh at me. There was people lined up for 100, 200 deep outside scalpers. Oh, yeah.
And that was back when I briefly had a stint as the DJ for the Cataracts. I did 2 or 3 games and even the guy announcing got on the mic one night and told me to turn the fucking racket down.
Oh man, did you play breaking the law whenever there's a penalty?
No.
That's the pro move, man. You got Judas Priest breaking the law whenever there's a penalty.
To this day.
That's the pro move.
But yeah, no, it was just so much fun. And I think at that point, I don't think there was even. There was the CBs. There was.
CB's was a great fucking place to play too. Danny Cleary's hometown.
There was some stuff out. There was some stuff out east, but that league I think was all like Grand Falls was as far east as you went. It was Grand Falls, Windsor.
Oh yeah.
It was Bay St. George, Cornerbrook, and Deer Lake were like the four teams. In the league.
They were the four west.
Yeah,
and that's when they started to pay. So the first year I went to Cornerbrook, I was getting $300 a game, and then I never made less than that for quite a while. That was senior hockey. But now this being said, okay, I don't mind saying that we ended up all getting audited anyway, and we had to give back like $9 or $10,000, most of us, a couple of years ago, and then it all went on the books.
Yeah.
So when I played for Gander a few years ago, and I told you we brought in Aaron Asham, I can't remember. Let's say I was getting $300 say a game, then. That was taxed, and I got paid by the town of Gander, and we also did hockey schools and helped. It became more communal actually after they did that, because you had to kind of either hide the money or actually pay people for things that they were doing outside of the game. So, but I always did that in Cornerbrook. And Cornerbrook, guys, we were playing Deer Lake. And I remember I referred to Fighting Langer last week.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I went to Cornerbrook. To be honest with you, Deer Lake's 45 minutes from Cornerbrook. For those who don't know. And we held about Cornerbrook, I'm guessing about 2,000. Now,
because it's the Pepsi Center in Cornerbrook,
Pepsi
right?
Center
is
the
big. It's the big one over there.
Yeah.
And Deer Lake held about 1,000.
That's a cold rink in Deer Lake.
Pepsi Center might be even more. It's slightly more than 2,000. So, I went out and it was early in the season because it was the lockout year.
Yeah.
And Langer was back from Jersey. He wasn't done the NHL yet, and I fought him. And then I don't remember how we worked it out, but I went into Wally and I said, no, I just sold out the next fucking 5 games of the season.
Yeah.
So I deserve something. And they didn't disagree.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody started to get paid. But I mean, what are you going to do? We had rivalries. Guys, every game we played that year in senior hockey, almost every game was sold out. There's thousands and thousands, and I'll always say it. Like, we play senior, yes, for the love of it. This will be an example this year in St. John's, right? There's different leagues, different things, different priorities, different circumstances. But, if we're playing out there and I'm fighting Darren fucking Langdon, and on a regular basis, this wasn't every game, but it was a few times, and, Darren Colburn's playing the same thing, the 69-goal scorer and the coach, you're going to give him nothing. When you start to make money as a team, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, you got to give something back. And that's when our league, to be honest, took off. And that's when we started competing for and winning Allen Cups. So I don't have anything to apologize for there.
Actually, in the pre-CBA days, Eddie Shore, who's notorious for being just an absolute wingnut, he'd find a way to find people. But if you started a fight and a guy scored after that shift, he'd slip you an envelope of money. He'd give you kind of a little performance bonus or whatever.
Hey, motivators. It's always going to happen.
Also, he definitely found a way to fine you 6 times. This guy was insane. He had, if you were injured, you were working it because he owned the rink. He owned the team, and he was also the coach. So if you were injured, you were literally packaging peanuts to sell in the stands.
That's a great point, because that's what my point is, that no matter what, if you want to win and you get these communities that support it, money becomes a factor. It becomes a discussion, whether you're fucking stingy or whether you're not. And that's how these little folklore type stories start, right? Well, this guy's playing for 24 beer a game, $20, and fucking sticks all year. And that happens. That happens. Bird Dog paid for moose meat and booze, man.
Yeah. That is how many guys? Amazing.
That's when we were getting $400 and $500 a game, boys. Bird turned that down to get the equivalent in moose meat.
I love it so much.
In all fairness, I haven't had a moose burger in a while, and I might do
I got a couple in my freezer, man.
But man, but I can't tell you how many guys retired from Abitibi Price with full pensions because they were brought in the '60s to play for the Cataracts and given a day job. Well, okay, we're gonna bring you in to play for the team, so here's a job at the mill.
Joe Byrne, dude, is one of them. That's how so 5 guys. Grand Falls is what, 10,000 people?
I think it's around there now.
Around there?
I think it was 12, 14 when I was growing up. And
so it's never been more than 15, say. Yeah. So, again,
except
for a lot of people,
except for a couple instances during the Salmon Festival, when it was 40 to
when there was 30 at the concert,
and there was not enough water.
So, Mr. Grand Falls in central Newfoundland. Those who don't know, and it's a quaint little town. It's often
beautiful little town.
Often, it really is. I love it. It's regularly in Maclean's top small towns.
Is it really?
It is. Yeah,
Wow.
you look it up.
Because it was again founded by British paper barons who actually, unlike every other Newfoundland town that's just like throw some fucking houses down, it was actually plotted out as a garden city. So there's like, you know, there's this dedicated green space and stuff like that you don't get in a lot of Newfoundland towns.
I got a confession to make, man. I have never turned off the highway in Grand Falls. Actually, that's a lie. I stopped
Grand Falls
once.
Windsor, by the way, it amalgamated in 1991, and I will take heat from people if I don't call it Grand Falls Windsor.
I stopped once to get an oil change, and that's not a euphemism. Like I went to Canadian Tire and get an oil change.
Wow.
But you know, Canadian Tire, you can see from the highway. It's not even that far into town.
That's it, man. I haven't been.
There you go. It's a beautiful little spot, and downtown especially is gorgeous. Where the rink is, where Joe Byrne Memorial Stadium is, it's downtown, and they've done a really great job since the mill closed of like trying to revitalize downtown. They've done some like older facades on the buildings and stuff. It's a beautiful little spot.
I just lied. I stopped at a DMV once too, and I asked the lady if I had to get a license plate.
Also not that far. Also something you see from the highway.
Pretty close to the highway. But anyway, I'll never forget. I asked, like, I just bought a car in Nova Scotia, needed a license plate in Newfoundland, and I asked her if I could specifically get license plate JAM420, and she didn't see the humor in it, especially when I asked, like, is it taken? And she's like, I can't disclose that. That's a. Anyway, I digress.
You were talking about.
Yes. Okay. So 5 guys off Dad's team. So for those who don't know, Grand Falls in the middle of Newfoundland. It's about 4-hour drive from St. John's. Smaller place, as we said, and 5 guys off his bantam team. Played professionally eventually. Donnie House played for the LA Kings and other teams. That would have been the highlight. My dad, Minnesota Fighting Saints, North Stars draft pick, and set records in Hamilton in the OHL. There was Jim Munch, who ended up playing overseas in Germany. There was Tony White, who ended up, I think, having 30 goals for the Washington Capitals. And there was Thierry French, the fifth, who was an absolute legend, moved up to Labrador. Got drafted ahead of Larry Robinson.
Drove to work with my dad for a while.
Yeah, due to some injuries and things. You know, he didn't stick, but like 5 of those guys. So Joe Byrne got brought in by Abitibi, right, to play for the Cataracts and to run minor hockey. So Joe Byrne gets there. None of these guys, it would have been 0 of them going anywhere, right? So Joe comes in, sees this, works with them for a few years. They start winning. This is how good of a coach and a GM this guy was, or GM if you want to say that. Let's just say talent finder and negotiator. So, you know, the boys are in Grand Falls, and they would beat the best team in here, Randy Piercy, a legend of Newfoundland hockey, but they'd beat them like 10-1 and shit. Like I didn't believe Dad growing up. No, not that Piercy wasn't great, but I didn't. I saw the sheets, and I'm like, you're not kidding. They won for Grand Falls to win every single year is one thing. Then 5 of them to go, and Dad ended up having 49 goals in a season, nearly tied Paul Henderson's record in Hamilton. You know, then goes to the Minnesota Fighting Saints, and that's just him, 5 of them. So that's why that's seeps over in today's Cataracts. So why do you think they still have the best team? Now Abitibi's long gone. Yeah. But good hockey is part of that community. They've always had the good hockey, and I can honestly say that my dad and his buddies are a direct result of that mill bringing in the right talent, and otherwise it never would have happened. And Joe Byrne, there's stories and stories about what he's done for Newfoundland hockey, but that's why it's called the Joe Byrne Memorial
That's why
Stadium.
there's rinks
and the Grand Falls Memorial Stadium, I think, is what it actually was called before that, and around the same time that the town amalgamated.
Nice.
Because my mom used to work for the rec department, and I remember her working there at the time they rebranded as the Joe Byrne Memorial Stadium. And of course, we talked about it a couple weeks ago about just the fucking Jones Shield and how great that was and what a great hockey rivalry it was.
Right behind you, you've got the number 1 back
now,
there.
You know what?
The same like Sentinels.
We got to interview Linger soon. And
we
didn't
do.
you have an old baby that you wanted to talk about?
I did. I've got one thing I want to talk about. I'm going to call it the intentional offsides rather than the old baby.
All right.
You look like you're wheeling away.
No, I was just gonna grab something to show TR while you were talking.
Okay, well, you grab away. High quality segue here, boys.
Look at that. I'm going to post this after,
Oh, Mike.
Go ahead. It's a Minnesota
Mike
Fighting
just threw
Saints
a
t-shirt.
very, very beautiful blouse, a Minnesota Fighting Saints shirt over to TR here, which I'm a little jealous about.
It's great. Yeah.
My intentional offsides comes from. I'm not even going to out the knucklehead that did it, but I was unfortunately listening to some sports radio this week at my desk, and someone came in and talked about the GM hunt for Seattle. They had brought up someone who I think is not at all qualified for the job, being Dave Nonis, And the only thing I thought about was the entire time was, one, how are we going to have media personality fucking sliding resumes back and forth to this club now? Or it got me thinking about the current situation in Columbus.
Okay.
Columbus loaded up in a big way. I think every sweepstakes besides the Mark Stone one ended up with the Blue Jackets. This is Saturday right now. They're playing the Penguins.
They even won the Panarin and Bobrovsky sweepstakes.
Yeah, they kept the Panarin number. And so it's Saturday right now. You're going to hear this at Tuesday. Of course, I'm not sure how they're going to fare against the Penguins. I have been looking at the Eastern Conference standings like the character of a beautiful mind all week, man. It is madness. So my segue here is I honestly think that if Columbus doesn't pull through, make the playoffs, the likely GM is currently employed by Columbus. I think Seattle's... I think so. I think Seattle's like, you know what? He's not afraid to make a decision, for one.
Yeah, but what's he going to do in Seattle if all the best players on the Ottawa Senators are already playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets? Like, what's he going to do as a move if that's his case?
The beauty in it is that move is you've got this. So this is a guy that's not allowed to pick up, is not afraid to pick up the phone and say, you know what? I want to do this, that, whatever. Vegas built that team. That team that went to the finals. Vegas built that team with George McPhee literally saying, I'm open for business when it went to that expansion draft.
But Vegas got that team that went to the Cup final because they're the only team in NHL history that had a expansion draft with only them in it.
Yeah, they got the same rules with Seattle.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, Seattle's going to come out and not be as strong as Vegas because it's happening a couple years after, and everyone's kind of seen what happened with Vegas, and it's going to be fool me once. Yeah. But that's why Vegas did what they did, is that they went through, and it wasn't like the years where you've got three teams coming in expansion. So you pick, they pick, they pick. You got I want the best player, and then I want the next best player, and then I want the next best player. They just went through and just handpicked the best guys from that expansion class with no competition.
No. There was a lot of smart, shrewd moves, meaning, hey, listen, you want to leave this guy unprotected? Well, to do that, we won't take him, you give me a pick. Or, in the Marc-Andre Fleury situation, you got a bad contract or a contract that doesn't fit on your books anymore, we'll take him.
Totally.
They took a pick. Yeah. Like, Pittsburgh is on, well, they're on the inside right now, but I feel, their goaltending situation. Yes, I know Matt Murray has 2 cups. Yes, I know Matt Murray has 2 cups. He's probably put him...
Marc-Andre Fleury has 3.
Marc-Andre Fleury has 3 cups?
He was on both those teams, and he won in 2009.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
You were a fucking Penguins fan for part of that.
Holy shit. There's a Penguins fan over here. I thought you'd get that right.
Anyway.
You're playing hockey GB games with Darren Colburn over stats in the late 80s of guys that only played NCAA that shoot left. And now all of a sudden you can't remember the best goalie on your team in the very current era.
Hey, now we didn't talk about Tom Barrasso.
Summer 2009.
Do you remember who he is?
Summer 2009, the mine was shut down and there was a lot of drinks shared. I forget half of that run. Anyway, in my opinion, I think that, one, you got fellas running around sliding sheets of paper with Dave Notice's name on it for this vacant GM job. I honestly think the GM that ends up in Seattle is currently employed somewhere, and they're going to...
I think so.
I think that...
Or it's Peachy Relly. I would fucking love it.
No.
I would just love it if it was Chiarelli.
My blood pressure... I'm wearing one of these little heart monitor smartwatches, and my BPMs just jumped by 10.
Fuck.
Anyway, that's my intentional offsides. It's more or less just throwing shade at this one guy who he's an insider and he's related to the GM he was lobbying for. So I don't know, give that up.
All right.
From St. John's, Newfoundland, a man who's not employed by any sports broadcasting.
Well, there you go. Darren
Traeger, by the
way. I have a weird one because it's kind of a bit of a combo of intentional offsides and an oh baby, because it made me go oh fuck more than anything else. It was so I got an undisclosed upper body injury. That's
sounds scandalous.
It's getting close to the playoffs, so I'm just going to say upper body injury and not specify. But I did spend some time at a hospital yesterday, and they were quite concerned with what rink I came out of because I was playing hockey. I got banged up, And everywhere, like anytime I went through, they were like, you know, what rink you play at? It turned out that one of the rinks here in town had a carbon monoxide leak and 45 fucking people got treated for it. I had a doctor tell me while I was waiting for my x-ray results, they called it code orange. And I asked the doctor if it was because of the rink. And he's like, well, I hope so, because if not, we're fucked.
Wow.
If there's something else going on. He said it's the third time he's heard one called in 16 years.
Holy shit! Is everybody okay?
I don't know.
Okay.
It happened yesterday into last night. Apparently, there was a problem with the Zamboni, which is often the case because I was supposed to play a game at this rink on Wednesday night and it was canceled because of problems with the Zamboni. Friday, 45 minor hockey kids and parents get fucking sent to the hospital.
Yikes.
So it's really scary. Hopefully, everyone turns out okay. But it was just one of those because it took me. I got banged up. It's a cracked rib. There we go. I disclosed it.
Oh no!
If it's one of those, like, if I was in the NHL right now, I'd be playing through the playoffs with it. But
get the butt ends out on Mike next game, boys.
Instead, I'll be taking a week or so off. I was told 8. It's probably gonna be 2. But anyway,
Patrice Bergeron over here.
That deep breath really hurt, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, and so I popped in thinking it's Friday, it's supper time. Won't take long for me to just go in, get an X-ray, confirm it, and then know that I have an excuse for just being on the couch because I hurt. And instead, it took like 4.5 hours to get through, and it was because the hospital was over capacity because anybody who wasn't dealing with this carbon monoxide thing was getting sent down to the hospital where I was at because they were just like so overwhelmed. Both hospitals were working over capacity. It was insane. So good job on all the staff for dealing with all that and handling it. And best of luck and best wishes for anybody who is who dealt with it.
Yeah, we hope everyone's okay.
Everyone's doing okay. I've heard some scary reports, but hopefully it's all just all people overreacting and guessing and stuff. But hopefully everyone comes out of this okay. And hopefully it's all good and the rink's back up and running soon. But yeah, scary stuff. But that's my oh baby and oh fuck. And if you go on VOCM, you can probably I'm not saying where it was, but just because I don't want to. But yeah, it's scary stuff, and hopefully everyone involved is all right. But with that, tell us about David Ling.
Here we go.
Oh, you want the intro now? I guess. Okay, so that's our guest this week, guys. Is David Ling. I'm sure everybody out there knows now. This guy I'd say he needs no introduction, but he could have a fucking 10-minute introduction. Linger's known, his wings spread a long way in the hockey world. He just retired a couple years ago. Not even. I think he played games last year on the
Brampton Beast. Yeah.
He did 12 games.
This close to showing up and playing the Growlers TR. This close. He could have been here.
You know, he started as a 15-year-old on the Charlottetown Abbeys. And he fought Langer a couple times. Linger's the only guy I know to lead the CHL in penalty minutes one year. And he's only about 5'8", 5'9".
5'9", according to Hockey
He's
DB.
listed at 5'9", which is often not the case. He plays
skates help.
He plays big. He's a
5'9",
real tough guy. You Google
5'9"
Derek
on
Morris
skates
or
in his
whoever.
phone book.
But Linger's, and that was it. But he was always going to stand out somehow. So that one year, I think it was 93, 94, or the year before, he led the CHL in penalty minutes. The next year, he leads it in points. We ended up playing together.
135. 136 penalty minutes in 94, 95. With the Frontenacs.
How many?
130. Or no, sorry, shit. The year before that. Fuck. No, 92, 93.
135. He led it in scoring.
Yeah, no, fuck. He had 135 points. The year he had 136. The year 92, 93. So his first year in the OHL with the Kingston Frontenacs, 275 penalty minutes.
Dude.
Then the next season he dropped down to 254. And then after that was 136 when he also led the team in scoring.
Because he can do it all, man.
What the fuck?
Linger can
Set
do it all.
a cot up in the penalty box at that point.
Jesus Christ.
The amount of teams we think we've had with Darren Kimball and Darren Colburn, a long list. Holy fuck.
I don't even want, I don't even know if I want you to list them because I think I want to play the Hockey DB game where I want David Ling to actually play his own Hockey DB.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to. So on the intro, you don't want me to say like.
No, you can do it because you give everyone the fucking heads up and they can follow along to see if they got it right.
I could do it now.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get it out because.
Well, Linger played on the Charlottetown Abbeys, the St. Michael's Buzzards, the Kingston Frontenacs, the St. John Flames, the Montreal Canadiens, the Fredericton Canadiens, the Indianapolis Ice, the Kansas City Blades, the Utah Grizzlies, Columbus Blue Jackets, Syracuse Crunch, St. John's Maple Leafs, Spartak Moskva, Dynamo Moskva, Toronto Marlies, EHCBN Switzerland, Jokerit Finland, Providence Bruins, Valpasteria Italy, Conception Bay CB Stars Newfoundland, Brampton Beast, Oklahoma City Barons. There's a story there. Don't let me not tell it. Nottingham Panthers. There's a story there. Don't let me not tell it. Stony Creek Generals and Hamilton Steelhawks, where he currently plays, going for the Allen Cup. Senior hockey. He also played 2 games this year in the Quebec LNAH. This guy's all over the map, and he's got great stories. He's a great leader. He could fight, he could score, and he's fucking crazy. So Linger and I, for example, I don't even know. We had so many stories. I don't even know if he'd remember this. He must remember. We had all inflatable furniture one year. We got that idea from a guy named Frank Bannon. We played for Cincinnati and Anaheim for a little bit. We had a disco ball, and we had a Nerf pool, like a blow-up little thing, like for 3-year-olds, and we used to put a bucket of water in it and then invite girls back for pool parties. And that's what it was. It was just a mess with Linger. I would go into the bar, and Linger would say, "How are we gonna get noticed or whatever?" So I'd have a couple shots, then I'd take my shoe off and I'd put it on top of my head, and I'd walk around the bar with the shoe on the top of my head, waiting for someone to say, "Why the fuck's your shoe on your top of your head?" Well, it was to start a conversation with you, honey. Why don't you come over and... Oh, yes. And I'd toss it off and then catch it on my foot, and Linger just loved that shit.
That's impressive.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. We went to Providence one time after a game and went to Providence College, and Linger fucking bet me... Like, he'll tell this story, and we'll get right to it. But something came on. Take off your clothes. So I went right down to my boxers, and I went out and did a dance. Like, all the boys are there trying to get a laugh for everybody. Then I went to get my clothes. I'm like, where the fuck are my clothes? And Linger had them like in a bag and thrown down over the hill. Like, so I had to go back. I mean, no wonder Tyrion thought I was fucking nuts. I show up at the hotel in Providence with my underwear on in the midwinter.
Oh,
where are they?
no.
They're at Providence College somewhere.
You have any snakeskin boots, though, at least?
I had boots. I don't remember which one's on. But anyway, yeah. Look, I can keep going. I might as well tell the Linger stories while Linger's here.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's fucking.
Did anyone keep count when you were listing teams? I lost. I can't remember how many times my hands changed over. I think it was 19.
On Hockey DB. Yeah. It lists them at 24 teams, but that doesn't include like the Newfoundland senior stuff, and there's a couple leagues that,
Elite Prospects will get that.
Yeah.
Elite Prospects, by the way, I don't know who's in charge of these. I love Hockey DB, but
Pierre, don't say it.
It lists more. I want to say, like, mine is more detailed on Elite Prospects. I didn't even know it existed till like a year ago, and it gives your Junior A stuff. The Hockey DB is
and the other one I want. The thing about Hockey DB that I kind of wish they had is because I'm so used to like IMDb, like the Internet Movie Database as well. Like I use that constantly for shit. I wish there was a way with Hockey DB that you could add trivia. So you could add, because I mean, so much hockey stuff is anecdotal, and it would be so great if there was like a trivia section.
Because I will not sit here while you're dragging Hockey DB through the mud.
People. We expect people to email us and send in stuff to Twitter. Why don't we email Hockey DB?
There we go. Actually, Hockey DB has a Twitter now.
I don't run it.
I'm following it, yeah. But what you need to do, like, let's just email them and say it's a good. I mean, trivia would be a great thing. You could get everybody to contribute their own trivia.
Yeah, no, and I mean it's and it's the same thing as it just goes through. It gets verified.
By the way, did you
whatever.
do my IMDb? There's trivia on my IMDb, and I haven't touched it.
Oh no, it's just I didn't do it. I could.
It says a hockey thing. It says, "Did you know?"
No, not
and
me.
Some hockey blurb, and I was like, "Who put that there?" Because you need like $100, $150 a year.
No, you don't. Not enough to add trivia and stuff. You don't need to be a IMDb Pro member.
So you mean I can go on there and just write in my credits and stuff?
No,
anyway,
no. To add your credits, you need Pro, but to just add trivia and stuff, you add it and it gets verified or whatever.
Go in and add the pool party story.
Oh yeah, look at this.
Did you know?
Look at this. Yeah, no.
It's, he's got
Elite Prospects.
Yeah,
see what I mean? I know.
Hamilton Seahawks.
I know what
there.
you're saying, guys, and I love Hockey DB. I've used it for 20 years, but they got to get their act together because the fucking.
Oh, buddy.
Hey, Elite Prospects.
You're gonna
look at it. Elite Prospects got more.
It's 2 against 1
Elite
here,
Prospects
too.
has minor hockey and fucking Junior A on it.
No.
The other one doesn't.
Yeah. No, this might be a game. This literally might be a game changer.
I am not. It is the Hockey DB game in my house. I'm shouting.
All right. Well,
no one wants to play the Elite
Let's
Prospects
get around here.
With that note, we'll take a second. We'll hear from our sponsor, Head Check Health, and then we'll be right back with David Ling.
Concussions are serious business. Concussions and post-concussion syndrome had a huge effect on my career. Whether you're a player, a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, or an executive, they're a major area of concern. HeadCheck Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the individuals responsible for documenting and assessing concussions and providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. HeadCheck currently works with organizations across the country like the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance their concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. That's headcheckhealth.com or info@headcheckhealth.com and tell them TR sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure this week on Third Man In podcast to have my buddy, the man, the myth, the mystery, and I mean that. That's overused, but David Ling. David Ling, for those who don't know, I just gave him a bit of a wind-up, Linger. It was too many teams to mention, so I did it all before you came on the air. And let's just say former NHLer, former NHLer, which is what we all strive to be as hockey players. David Ling. David, great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's, we've been through a lot. It's good to be on here and be able to tell some stories.
Yeah, well, we have been through a lot. And boys, so I was telling these guys you're on with Mike Hickey and Charles Pickett. So I was telling the boys a little bit about our history. So I met Linger. Let's get into this, Linger. Let's just say everybody got a different...
I got you drafted.
Remember I told you that? The first... I lined up with Linger in the face-off in Montreal, and because we were going to end up playing with Freddie that year, and Linger says, "Yo, me happy your contract." But I went around him in the CHL All-Star game, but it was tough. Linger was not a defenseman in that game, by the way. I was going to get to that, but you did, and you were gracious about it. But, you were kind of stuck there, and I'm a forward with a full head of steam. Anyway, I went around him, and we still joke about it, but, Linger ended up... That
was the first time that year I was in my own end.
Well, there you go. Fire back there.
Well, hey, one of those guys that did handshakes, you can meet your goalie for the first fucking time, right? Like,
what's your name?
A few years
I knew the other
before
goalie better than I knew the other goalie better than mine.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Linger used to take the goalie's water bottle and take swigs off it. I got in 2 or 3 fights. Yeah. Billy Armstrong grabbed me once because of that. I didn't even do it. I said, "What the fuck? Tell Linger to stop taking our water bottle." Oh yeah, the plate go up the other.
Well, that's in Goon too. That's a thing in Goon 2 where he comes out and he takes a swig from
Goon 2. Well, Linger was doing that in fucking '92. So
I used to pick it up, skate with it to the blue line, and then roll it back to him.
Oh yeah,
my
guys,
God.
consistently.
Oh, that's solid.
It's like a Roddy Piper pro wrestling move.
There was much pro wrestling about this whole presentation.
Linger's in the program, billed from parts unknown.
One of those. Still playing, guys. Still playing. Yeah. So
midget wrestling.
Yeah.
Linger, I'm gonna go back to where it all started. So Charlottetown Abbeys, what? You're 15 playing in the Maritime Junior League?
I think it was 14, Terry.
14.
Yeah.
He's the only other guy I know other than myself that that I met in the pro hockey world that played junior at such a young age. But again, fuck, man. In a lot of ways, it's like looking in the mirror. Like Linger didn't only play. Tell me the story. We were talking about Darren Langdon last week. How did you end up fighting Langer as a fucking 15-year-old in that league?
Which time? But
yeah. Which time? You're from, and for those who don't know, David Linger's from Charlottetown. So the Abbeys is the local junior team there, but it's a reputable league, the Maritime Junior League. Lots of guys go college, lots of guys go major junior.
On both on both Hockey DB and Elite Prospects, it's saying Halifax. So
I was born there, but moved over when I was 5.
All right,
gotcha.
Okay, all right, fine.
So Linger, take me through that. So was 4B Kennedy legend, by the way? Was he your coach then there?
Yeah. So 4B and his son Mike were the coaches, and they were really old school with the toughness, but Langer was played there as a 1920 just before he went to the coast, and then everyone else knows where he went from there. But so 4B and my dad called me in and said, "There's a couple scouts coming. You're going to have to fight Langdon." I'm like, "What? No, like I'm not going to have to do that. Like, what?
Your dad.
They get the
Respect that though, boys.
because he's like 14, 15.
I
It's
know
like
what it's
everybody
like.
calls
I had the
parents.
same conversation with my dad, and you hear it as a fucking as an adult, and you go, well, that sounds barbaric, but everything that led to that situation isn't. Like, you're in hockey, and you're fighting anyway, and the people that know Linger know he fight the fucking devil, man. It didn't matter that it wasn't an intimidation or an injury thing they were worried about. They were just literally thinking that if you did, then you'd get noticed, right?
But in hindsight, it might be child abuse, really, when you look at it.
That's what I was thinking about.
Now
If
it
you
is.
see
In our
like a
area, it is.
19-year-old dunking on a 15-year-old kid outside of a schoolyard, you're not going to phone the guy's
The
parents. You're
fact
going
that
to phone
you're
the
even
cops.
the junior kids fighting is one thing. It's another for a fucking bantam age guy to fight a fucking guy who 2 years from then was going to be a National Hockey League tough guy throwing hammers. But anyway, Linger, go on with the story because fucking.
So we go out on the ice, and I'm just like shitting my pants. Like, I know this is going to be not very good, but I have to do it. One, because I look so much up to Forby, and two, my dad was there saying you better do it. So I was like, holy rip. So I go out to face off. I remember it's right by our bench, and I slashed Langer, and he looked at me like, are you serious? And he kind of glanced over at our bench and like, is this guy serious? Like, do I have to do this? So I hit him again with my stick, and he just, he beat me, but I think he let off a little bit at the end.
Well, Linger, I mean, and for those, I guess you can just look it up, but Linger's about 5'9", so like, and Langer's probably 6'1". So, and Langer being as tough as he was, you get a 5'9", 15-year-old or 14-year-old. Jesus
Were you
Christ.
even 5'9" at that point? Is the question.
Oh, I was 5'9" at 11.
Okay.
And then just stopped.
I just stopped growing. Yeah,
Well, drinking too early, that's why.
I didn't drink till I was like 21.
Really? So don't tell me I'm your corrupter then, for fuck's sakes. That was the year we started hanging out.
Yeah, I had to go to St. Mike's because I got caught drinking at the under 17.
Hey, wait, that was my.
Sudbury.
No, wait, this is my next question. So I never knew Linger. You never told me that you played for St. Michael's Buzzers. I didn't know that came before Kingston. Question one is, how the fuck did you get there? And question two, I looked, Brett Lindros was on that team. And so, and he had 210 penalty minutes, and the next guy had like 40. Like, was he
82.
Was he fucking pump? Yeah, the next guy had 82. Was he pumping guys back then? And, how did you get there to begin with?
Well, my brother went to Notre Dame out in Wilcox, so the Catholic school.
Jamie.
We're not Catholic, but it was just part of. I got caught drinking at the under 17 in Sudbury, and I wanted to go to the OHL.
No, you said you didn't drink till you were 21.
Yeah, that was a lie. That was a lie.
Go ahead.
So I got caught there, and then we discussed it, and I had to go prove that that I'm not a complete idiot down from the East Coast because I wanted to go to the OHL. So we decided I'd go to St. Mike's, and I ended up being there only for 3 months because by the time when I was leaving, the fourth coach was coming in. It was like a debacle, and I had guard and duty for swearing at practice. It wasn't an unbelievable experience, and I was only 16 in downtown Toronto.
Wow. Oh, yeah. That
What
can't
could go wrong?
Yeah. That can't miss.
The one story is with Lindros is it was the Canada Cup, and I was sleeping at Brett's house that night, and Eric came in. He's got a full picture of
In 91?
on his, yeah, the 91 Canada
When Eric
Cup.
was on Team Canada without even playing in the
without
NHL
playing
yet,
the
with an
show,
unbelievable feat. Keep going.
So he comes in. His room's got a full body shot of Marc Messier, and he comes in and picks me up with one hand and chucks me in Brett's bed, and then goes on for 20 minutes of much of a wine or Gretzky was. So I was just like, wow, this is a different world. I'm 16.
That's unbelievable.
I'm 16 from Charlottetown, and I'm getting this.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? While in Toronto,
Wow.
when the Canada Cup is going on, that's fucking crazy.
I think it was actually like he was coming back from he was just done, and he was just coming back from the tournament.
At 91, throwing shade at Gretzky.
Well, he threw a lot of shade back then.
Yeah.
Holy
I think
shit.
Lindros matured when he was like in his mid-20s from everything I hear. I have no fucking just little I'm always peppered with stories like that, right? And so
Okay.
Linger's that's one of many stories that I've heard. I mean, I've met Eric recently, and he seemed like a great fella, but back
Oh,
then
he is a great guy. Like, he is a great guy. And you know what? I didn't lose. It wasn't a disrespect. It was just him being passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And he was coming at it from that point of view too. Eric Lindros, he was every bit Connor McDavid back then.
But he did pick me up with one hand, and I was probably 170 pounds.
So Linger, from there, you go to Kingston. So you played the Kingston Frontenacs. Now the 1 year you
with
led
Lindros again. With Lindros again. Brett was there on that team too.
Okay, so Jesus, you played a few years with him. So you go there. The 1 year you come close to leading the CHL in penalty minutes. If not, you led it. And the next year you lead it in points. So within your 3 years, you put up a lot of PIMs. And I know the answer because I know you're going to do whatever to be on the score sheet. Did you know that you were going to eventually play as much, or were you invested in being a shit disturbing / tough guy your first couple years?
Well, I went there and I had a point a game my rookie year with 60 some points with, and fought everybody. And then the next year I improved on that but led the league in PIMS. And then I knew the points were coming. I had to dial down the fighting.
You had to dial it down. Who did you get in? Who was your fighters then? The year you had 135, I think, Linger. I'm not looking at it, and
I am.
I forgot it was even the first 2 years. I knew you had a point a game the first year, or the second year. I didn't realize the first. So for that to happen, for room to open up, Linger, and you are a shit disturber, in a great way, not a prick, but a shit disturber, and at times can be a prick. But someone had to step in. Lindros would have been one of them, I guess, but there's no way David Ling is getting those points without pissing off everybody in the league, every goalie, every fucking coach.
By the third year, no one. It was. I decided when I wanted to do it or didn't. It wasn't but the first two years, I probably was 10-60. So I lost 60 fights. I never had there wasn't a Monday in school where I didn't have a black eye.
Wow, but you love that. You pick up chicks that way. And if I know you. But that's the thing, just showing up. About. Just showing up, right? I mean, I often say that to people, just showing up. Eventually, people don't want to do it, and you're a year older, you come back. But he also creates room. I'll often say it. I mean, I think you were more than 10-6. I didn't win many, but I didn't lose many. Mine were mostly even. And in the West, I remember that opening up room in front of the net and getting fucking, by my second, third year...
Yeah, but the West was the second toughest league, so that it's
fuck that league.
Oh, there we go.
Fuck that. You guys had tough players. No, well, first of all, we were miles, but both the O and the WHL were miles and miles ahead of the Q. The Q was where guys like me and Linger did not want to go because we it's similar mindset. You want to go out there. I'm always thinking every time I'm on the ice, I'm thinking, how's the puck going to go in the net first? But you're along the way, you're going to fucking stir things up a little bit. And that wasn't happening in the Q. And in the Q at the time, you could have 100 points and go 10th round.
The scouting was just invisible.
It wasn't open to the Maritimes
90s.
yet.
Yeah.
It really was all Quebec guys. It was very, I thought anyway, francophone in a way of separatism in some teams anyway. And a lot of it was subconscious.
And we got to pick like you did. We got to pick which three of the leagues we wanted to go to. And you had to pick before anything was the drafts or any of the protection lists were out.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm 16 and Graham James and his following come down to recruit me in PEI. And so I'm out golfing with all these guys. They give me all these Swift Current VHS tapes. You guys know what they are.
Yeah, fuck it.
So then I decided to go to the O, but then it's funny that later on you hear about him again.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a fucking bullet dodge there, man.
Yeah,
fuck.
no kidding.
Oh, well, you know what? Even to get onto that, Linger, on the same note, guys, and I don't mean any disrespect, and I want to tell this story. So Linger goes from there, okay, gets drafted to Quebec. I'm skipping over a bit, but we got so much to get to. So I actually met Linger. Well, I guess it would have been the CHL All-Star game, but a couple years later, Linger, you're in St. John to pick up on Graham James. One of his players was Sheldon Kennedy.
Yeah.
So I go over to see someone on Linger's team. I believe someone I played junior with. It might have been Todd Simpson. I don't recall. But I went over. It could have been Belak, But I went to see, and Linger was staying. Do you remember staying in a room with Sheldon Kennedy, and he took a bite of pizza one night, and we went back to bed next day, and the fucking pizza was still resting on his fucking chest. He was asleep.
It was 48 hours. I had to wake him up for 2 days later morning skate.
That's true. Now, boys, That's a fucking crazy fucking story. I don't mean any disrespect. Sheldon, I'm sure. I mean, I've worked with charities with him. I'm sure he'd tell you that himself. I mean, he's told worse than that. So I'm not trying to make a joke at his expense, but it was fucking crazy, boys. I go over to see Linger, and fucking Sheldon's there. There's one bite out of his pizza, and he lays it on his chest. So I guess I didn't see the beginning. I just came to the... Linger was like grabbing his coat or something. He's like, "Oh, Sheldon's still there." I'm like, "Wow, what do you mean he's still there?" He's like, "Oh, that was yesterday." I was like, "Holy fuck, no wonder." Like, think of and that guy was still playing up and down in the American Hockey League and the NHL. So, for those who don't know about Graham James, just fucking Google it. I'm not getting into it, but it was clearly hard.
That's one to stay
So Linger goes from St. John.
Bad man.
You must have got traded from Quebec, did you? You got drafted to Quebec. That's a prestigious.
Yeah, I got traded at that 2-year deadline.
Okay, and came over to St. John Flames. And then how did you end up? I know you got traded. Who'd you get traded for to be in my... And Linger's a couple years older than me, so by the time Linger got traded to the Montreal organization is when I was coming into the Montreal organization.
Scott Fraser.
Oh, Frage. Okay.
Yeah. So I got traded. Then he went on to have a good NHL career, and I just kept going to the minors.
I would argue that's a great question. How was his NHL career? He was pretty good. Frage was a great... I won't say great anything. He was good. He was sufficient. He was a good AHLer. But
he did everything well. He had a couple good. He had one big contract, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he did, and he did. He did a lot of things well. But Linger, I do think not just because you're my buddy, but you bring a little bit more to the table. I mean, you ended up getting your piece of pie in the NHL a few years later. But in Fredericton. So boys, I go into Fredericton. Linger, I don't even know if you remember this because this is just your personality, but I wasn't playing much. Now people think. My story with Michel Therrien and not getting along with him, people think that happened in Montreal. No, and I didn't even necessarily blame anything happened to me on Mike. I think Mike, when I say Mike, I mean Mike Therrien. I think he would have played me. I just thought he was an asshole. So anyway, I was there my first year, and I like 10 games in, I'm their first round pick, but he's not playing me much, and he gave me the tap a couple times to go fight. I had a couple of good tilts, but like 10 games, I know I didn't have a goal yet. I had say no goals and 2 assists, say. But Linger goes in and says, it only makes sense. We're on the beers one night, and Linger says, I'm going to go in and talk to Mike. Like, it only makes sense that I play with a guy that can pass me the puck, and it only makes sense someone that probably mix it up a bit because I started a lot of shit out there, and I was all for that. I'm like, I want to get noticed. I don't give a fuck. So I got put on the first line with Linger, and we pretty much stayed there all year outside of like a game or two. And that brought, I got Rookie of the Year in the end. I had 21 goals, fucking 34 fights. Linger was the perfect guy for me to fucking play with at that time. But, so it was
Can I tell how I ruined your career?
Well, you can tell. You can say whatever you want to say.
Did he ever give you half his contract, Linger? Did he ever pony up?
Well, I took you out for some drinks, though, more than once.
Yeah, and, let me listen to his music.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Let's
a
hear the story.
What was the trainer's name?
And Linger, oh my God, okay. And by the way, and I took about fucking, because of that year, and you're talking about me, I took about fucking 1,000 punches in the head for you or / because of you. Now the trainer, was it Pat Langlois?
No, the strength guy. Remember we
Oh, Stéphane Dubé.
Yeah, so Stéphane Dubé. So we were always at the bar, and this Stéphane Dubé would be out there with the French guys. And he came with Terry in the first year, so they were rookies, both of them. And the pro rule is if the coaches were in the bar, the players couldn't go in. And if the players were in the bar, the coaches couldn't go in. No matter what time of day it was, no matter if there was curfew or not, that was the rule, and you dealt with the issue the next day or whatever. But you weren't allowed in the bar. There couldn't be a conflict at the bar with the players and the coaches. So this coach was always with us, and then Terry would always know that we were out.
Yeah.
So I said to Terry, let's get him. We'll initiate him because he's pretending he's a player, but he's a coach. But we'll just make our point that he's a player because he's in the bar. So we take me and Terry.
Always thinking around these ideas that couldn't miss. Anyway, keep going.
So we went out with I don't know, probably like November when it's snowing, and we took some wet toilet paper and wrapped it around his car so it froze and he couldn't.
Fuck me, Linger. That's great. I didn't know where you were going with that outside the rink.
Yeah, so we toilet paper him up. Coach is going to come in and just snap because it's a coach. So I said, Terry, don't raise your arm when you ask who did it. I'm going to raise my arm. I'll go into the office and explain. I'll explain to him why we did it and whatever, and he can fuck off. And so so Terry comes in and goes, "Who did this to the coach?" in this goofy French accent, and I raise my hand and I look out of the corner of my eye, and Terry raises his hand. I said, "You stupid prick."
Boys, you're way too eager to raise your hands in moments like this.
I do remember everything. Like, and you said that idea with the most conviction. It was as if like this is what we're going to do, and it was as if we were planning our like SATs or something. Like it was just, it made so much sense to fucking wrap Stefan Dubé's car in toilet paper at the time. I believe we let the air out of his tires too. So boys,
fuck, I'd hate to have Terry as a sound.
Were you there when he threw the can of Coke at the wall?
I was there when he threw the can of Coke at the wall, Linger, that day. Speaking of cans of Coke, it's when, remember, I had a meeting with him. I don't know if you ever knew this. You did at the time. Terry called me in for a meeting, and he said, "Sit down," and I sat down, and he sat in his desk, and he opened a can of Coke and lit a cigarette. And he just smoked the cigarette and drank the Coke, and he just stared at me, and no one said anything. And then at the end of the meeting, he said, "Get the fuck out of here." And I said, "Okay." And then wasn't it me and you called in to be reprimanded, and he threw the Coke at the wall?
Yeah.
Why were we in there?
I think because he was like, that's when we were getting our pee-pee whacked for doing that to the trainer.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole full can hit the wall, and it opened up and sprayed, like splashed everywhere. Like it was.
And we had to sit there and act like nothing happened. So I've got Coke like running down the front of my face. Linger's giggling. And fucking Terry was trying to yell at us.
For the next 5 games, he brought me in after the game trying to get me to rat guys out. Like he was trying to like use me as a.
Yeah, he did that to me a couple times too.
I said, "You got the wrong guy, buddy. I'm not doing that." And then 10 games later, I got traded. And then Terry's career just started.
Well, you know that's true. And Linger, before you got traded, boys. Anyway, point being, I'll keep remembering when these Terrian things come up, because everybody, over the years, now people are starting to warm up to what I said. I came home and was blamed for all these things, and I'm like, I'm telling you, this guy's a prick. Although, I'm not sitting here and blaming him for my career when I say that. I'm saying that I experienced hell with that motherfucker, man. Now
sounds like the kind of guy to put a cigarette out on someone.
But you did score 29 goals in 270 minutes your rookie year. Like,
well,
there was no like.
That's the other thing, Linger. He played me if I did that. So, like, don't confuse whenever, not you, but people, when I say, "Oh, well, Terry got fucked over in Montreal if it wasn't for Mike Terrian." No, like, Terrian probably, if he got called up, I would have been there. He was giving me the tap. He was really disrespectful. I thought Terrian would be gone. You know, I thought he'd never spend a day in the NHL because he was unprofessional. He would chain smoke on the bus. I haven't even gone as far as to say what I already said because it gets personal. I in my book even, I just say things that everybody saw him smoke on the bus. Linger, remember when you stopped all the fucking elevators and I got blamed for it, or the moving escalators in Montreal? Well, we both did it, didn't we? Didn't we both do it, boys? Okay, look, I had to tell this story, Linger. Now, this is the way I remember it, but. So we'd charter once in a while to Montreal and play games in Montreal as the Fredericton Canadians because, you know...
Was that the Montreal airport? What airport was that?
Yes, the Montreal airport. So we'd go into the Montreal airport, and Linger, who often did this, by the way, so Linger would run up to the front on teams I'd played on with him, and this time I decided to do it, but we would run up to the front and stop the fucking moving, you know, the moving treadway or whatever it's called, and then like run up to the next... So all the boys that have their furniture, or their suitcases and their luggage. Yeah.
Well, if they had inflatable furniture, it was probably in their luggage.
I'm getting mixed up. So, but anyway, so about half the team is gone, and we look, and like Reggie Houle was down that weekend, and he was already gone and everything. So we figured all the coaches and them were with them. So me and Linger went ahead and stopped all the fucking moving escalators. But I didn't realize that like Terrian was back there with Jacques Lemaire and the girls from The Office, which is bad. I don't give a fuck about the guys, but the girls from The Office. So anyway. We did this the whole way through, and there's a bunch lined up. Yeah. Right? And anyway, we finally got on the bus. But when Terrian got on the bus, he came right down to my seat. Yeah. And he put his nose like 1 inch from mine. Yeah. And he looked me right in the eye, and he said, "Boys, who did this?" And he was looking right at me. Now, Linger, do you remember that? I wasn't even going to go there, but Linger, this is...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That might have been the same trip. Was that the same trip we went to New York City?
That was the trip. This all happened on this trip, Linger. I got a note. I made journals at the time. So within the same time, I think this was the same trip. We went to New York City, but we played in Montreal, remember? And then we played in Kitchener, and we fucked over Pat. Can you remember? This was another brilliant idea Linger had. Linger, tell the boys about that.
We had to sign a waiver for that hot sauce.
Oh, we went to Kitchener. There's a place
ears.
called like Red Hots or something. It's this fucking place that you can get whatever, like it's wings and everything, but you can get hot sauce at the beginning as soon as you go in. It's like a fucking Hard Rock Cafe of souvenir stuff, like fucking hot sauce style. So Linger, everything was there, and Linger goes, "What's the hottest fucking stuff you got possible?" And it was like 5 Bell Alarm hot, and then there was one that was in its own package out back, like they're just like the movie, written like a movie script. What do you mean? There's one more? And they're like, yeah, you got to bring it out. She brings it out of this like safe, and
wearing gloves, holding
I
it with
swear to
fucking
God, and we had to
tongs.
sign a waiver. We had to sign a fucking waiver to get it. So we sit down at the
They
meal.
make you do that at Jungle Gyms. That's a gimmick.
Well, this was crazy. But they must have had 1,000 kind of hot sauces there.
It came in a dropper.
Yeah.
So we said, "Oh, we'll put."
But Linger,
let's
first,
just-
Linger, before you get there, we sat down to our lunch, and I put my prong and my fork in it, and I put it on my tongue, and so did Linger. It ruined supper. I couldn't taste anything for like 3 hours. It burned my tongue. The prong of my fork. Okay.
Wow.
Now go ahead, Linger. What did we decide to do from there?
So we said, "Oh, we'll put 2 drops in his Pepsi because he just drank Pepsi like in the morning."
It was one of our trainers at the rink the next day.
So I take the
Pre-game
drop-
skate.
I take the dropper out and I put it in his Pepsi, and then I put the dropper into my underwear so it's concealed, and it burns my skin.
no.
It burns my skin.
You nearly had to miss the game, Linger. Like, I remember it was fucking unbelievable. You were like, I can't believe this. I could look, and it was fucking like burned. It looked like he had warts
It
or
looked
something.
like someone stuck a cigarette into my
Oh my
Lord.
lord!
Just a slight bit of residue.
So he takes a drink of this. And within 15 minutes, we almost have to take him to the hospital because his tongue is so swollen that he can't even open his mouth.
Oh, his face was all fucked up. His face was white. It was white, and it was pasty, and he was sweating. He said, "I don't know what happened. I had a bad reaction to something."
Did you ever tell this guy?
Did we
I
tell
don't think we ever told.
Oh my god!
Well, now here you go.
Well, here it is. He's gonna
All
find
these
out.
years
He's
later.
gonna find out.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I even forgot about that, Linger, until you started bringing that shit up.
Fuck.
So then, Linger, you go on.
No,
and-
tell the bite story at when he comes back onto the bus from New York City.
Which one? Well, you
Who
tell
was
it.
it?
You're our guest. You tell the story. I will. Yeah, which one? You'll tell me.
What was his name? The guy that played at Providence.
Russ Gouger?
Was that the guy that got bit?
I believe that was Russ. Yeah, Russ went. Well, the 3 of them, when we were in New York, we didn't know where they took off.
Got bit?
Yeah, well, there was 3 guys on our team that we were in New York City. This is the way I
And
remember it, Linger.
say the bus was said leave at 7. They didn't get back to the bus till midnight, and so we were waiting 5 hours on a bus.
Yeah.
Back then there was no cell phones, nothing, so there was no
Say we
contact.
pulled
or
in at
nobody.
noon, right? And they say, "Here's your day in New York." Be on the bus at because we were in the minors. We wouldn't have been playing in New York City, but we were in Hartford or something. So we said, "Fuck it, we'll stop by." They were good like that. So we'd be in all afternoon, and then we go get back on the bus at 7, and these guys are 5 hours late, and they got back on the bus.
And this is Reggie Houle's son, one of them.
He was one of them. Yeah, he was, and it was Russ Gouger, and I can't remember the third. It was probably one of those college guys. They were college.
Was
guys.
it Earl? Was it Earl?
I don't think Earl was all fucked up. I don't remember seeing Earl up because these guys were fucked up too, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? Like they didn't want to speak. I thought I figured like they had bad mushrooms or something. That was the kind of. But
He came back crying.
yeah, they were crying and Russ had like marks all over him, didn't he?
Yeah, but what did didn't a guy bite him?
I mean that was the story at the time. Maybe I'll have Russ on here sometime and talk about it. But not that I know where Russ is, but someone listen to this. But
Track him down.
Boys, it was the weirdest fucking thing, and no one ever found out what happened. It was that night in 1997. Wow. Yeah, like
And none of them got suspended or nothing.
Weird.
no, but maybe the only thing maybe it was a problem that was justified. That was that the whole team couldn't. Because
Wiped
if
under
you
the
and I
rug.
found out about it, it would have been over. right? If you and I found out that something personal had happened, there's a chance that we would have made it laughable for everybody. So
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe,
Would have been
yeah.
for sure.
Sounds like to me. It sounds like they got mugged. To me, if I were to guess,
But why wouldn't you say that?
Because you're fucking tough hockey players
Yeah,
who don't want to
exactly.
admit that you got mugged in New York City.
I got mugged in Paris. Took me a while to
So
admit
is
it.
that what we're going with? 22 years later, are we going with that?
I'm gonna bet
you
that they
close
got
the-
mugged.
Okay, fuck
I'm gonna
it, they
bet
got
that
mugged.
they got mugged. If you can track them down, I'd love to find out.
Now,
Just
The bite thing interests me. That's
Yeah, that's the whole thing. The whole thing's a little strange here.
Linger, I'm going to fast forward ahead.
no,
because-
I need to tell you one story when I got traded from St. John to Montreal.
Okay.
We were just because we were in Newfoundland and we flew into Newfoundland, and Paul Baxter, my rookie coach, hated me. So we get into Newfoundland and we had Gulliver's transfer. It was like a automatic school bus.
Yeah, yeah, those are still here.
still on the
So
go.
the GM, the coach, and all the trainers were in the airport getting the stuff, and all the players are on the bus. The bus driver goes in to help with the coach. So I get in the driver's seat and turn the bus on and automatic hide it behind the airport.
Oh
What?
my lord!
I had no idea the story was going to go there. What? You hid it behind?
So I hid the air behind the airport. It took them 25 minutes to get on the bus. As soon as they walked on the bus, they're like, "Linger, what the fuck?" Like they knew before they got on.
So you
I
stole
get
the
back.
Well,
Well, I just hid it. It was like hide and seek.
Like hide and seek. Please let me use that. Boss. I'm going to say that the next time I walk out of fucking Sportscraft with a pair of skates.
It's hide and seek.
boys. Go ahead.
So, like just a coincidence. I get to the hotel. There's no cell phones. I get to the hotel. There's a message on my machine. A couple hours later, saying to call Al Coates. So I call Al Coates, who's the GM in Calgary, and he says, "We've traded you to Montreal." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So I go to where we have curfew, and I said, "Hell with this, I'm going out." So I will go out. I go out and run into the coach, and he comes over and goes, "What? You're out past curfew? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not even on your team anymore."
Oh fuck!
He didn't even know.
No
Oh
way!
fuck!
Broke your own trade to the coach.
That's unbelievable. So then, actually, that's a segue into the next question. So what happened from? I remember you getting traded in Freddie, but I that was a minor league deal, wasn't it? And then you went on from there.
Yeah, but after I tell you, you'll know. So Brad Brown asked for a trade.
Yeah, that's a good buddy of ours. First round pick in '94, the year before me.
So Chicago came in to watch, and I ended up fighting Kamensky twice.
I remember that.
And then the following week, Chicago traded me for Gendron.
That's what happened. Yeah, we got Marty Gendron. I knew that. I just didn't know you were traded to the Chicago organization. I thought we loaned out. Okay, so you were in the Chicago organization for a while. Is that why the Indianapolis Ice happened?
Yeah, that's why. So I go there. I'm making 40 Canadian. I get traded cross border, and I'm into 27.5. So I could made more at McDonald's.
Wow. You were being grossly underpaid, Linger. Was that your first contract or something?
Yeah, so that was the first one that my agent did a really good job with.
He was hooking on you, giving him half
did
of
a great-
yours, for
yes,
Christ's sake.
I really should
Banging
have.
on half of Terry
Yeah, he's
Ryan's.
banging
know
on
what?
half of yours, Terry.
I took it in punches in the
so
face. Billy
Terry
Armstrong.
Terry still owes me.
Yeah, right. 3 fights in Providence, Slinger, and you started all of them, and Billy Armstrong nearly fucking pulverized. All 3 of these are on fucking YouTube, too. Watch Ryan versus Armstrong. You can see Linger chirping and waving at him as I'm starting to fight. He's about 6'5", 230, and that was the night we went out to the bar in Providence, and Linger dares me to get on the dance floor with no clothes. I do it. I come back, where's my clothes?
No, I didn't dare you.
How the fuck do you know you didn't dare me?
I'm ordering us a drink, and I look back, and Terry's got a suit on, breakdancing on the floor with a shoe in his mouth.
Well, yeah, with my shoe in my mouth. But I went back to get my clothes, and you had them fucking in a bag or taped up in a ball or something, thrown down over the hill. You didn't have to do that.
You guys know those college bars with that? There's like 4 inches of slush on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Terry was breakdancing with no clothes on, with his shoe in his mouth, down on that.
And if any of the boys on that bus trip were just somehow there, they're all talking about how TR ended up in that situation. Never mind missing in New York for 5 hours.
I know. See, like I told you guys, that's why I dug my own fucking grave, because the story ended up being me acting like a jackass at the bar. Had 3 fights that night, goal assist, didn't matter. Terry's fucking, which is true. I'm not knocking them for doing that. I shouldn't have taken all my clothes off and rolled around the dance floor again, Terry.
Again, yeah, is the big word there too.
And the worst part is, it was just me and him. Like, he wasn't showing off for anybody.
Well,
no, it's like that great story.
God, are you serious? I didn't remember.
Empty bars, just TR there.
You mean it wasn't a team builder?
No, there were students there, but no, it wasn't a team party.
There's this great story Kevin Smith tells about Jay Muse like that, where he talks about how they got working together, and it was like Muse was like this 15-year-old like shitty kid everyone knew from town, and Kevin Smith is in a library one day, and Smith and Muse comes in and just bursts through the door and then just proceeds to pretend to fucking blow every phallic thing in the room, and doesn't acknowledge that anyone else is there, and he just does it for himself and thinks it's hilarious and walks out and doesn't say a fucking word. And that's when Kevin Smith's like, I gotta fucking work with this kid. That's it. Terry Ryan's stripping his clothes off, fucking break dancing naked in the middle of a fucking
surprised
room where the only person in the bar is like David Ling and the bartender being like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I'm surprised fucking Linger didn't take off and leave me there on my own. That would have been worse. As it is, he only fucking, whatever you did with my clothes, I didn't get them back. So Linger, I'm going to skip over a couple teams here in that long, rich history of teams that you've played for, and bring you to the Columbus Blue.
Were you on the team that we took in Norfolk? We took their net and their pucks, and they had our goalies in 2 nets. Were you in that one?
No, I wasn't. Tell me.
So old Norfolk, you had to go across.
I remember the rink.
Yeah, so we had to go across their end to get to ours. So we had, I think it might have been the year before in Freddie, but we had like Jerry Flem and Dion Darling. And we took their net and their pucks into our end, so we put the 2 nets like on the 2 dots in our end, and we just had like two horseshoes going.
So what?
And they came on. They had Thornton, Nader.
Oh my God.
Aiken. So it took them about 5 minutes to realize, well, maybe we should go down and get that. So they tried to come down and get it. I'm like, this is going to be dangerous. I just sat at center and stretched and just watched, but nothing ended up happening. But they just ended up taking the net back. But we had both nets in there.
Wow, because I've heard that led to a brawl in the dub back in the day, and that's why we had to warm up separately. I'm surprised you guys went for it. That's old school Linger. Wow. That that's not that long ago for something like that to happen. I'm surprised it didn't go up, especially with those guys, the first 2 guys.
And that's like that's the American League. Like, that's not in like senior. Like, that's American League.
Who took the net on your team? Whose idea was it to take the net? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember. I'm sure it was one of our tough guys.
You mentioned you were at center ice stretching when everything went down. Are you sure it wasn't you? Because
no,
TRs tell him.
I might have took the pucks, but I didn't take the net.
Okay, just checking.
You weren't too far from it. So Linger, then Columbus happens. Did you see that coming? I mean, you did get almost 100 games in the show, so that's fantastic. If you told any of us that at the beginning of our careers, we would have been pumped with it. So you ended up getting it, and I guess your role on that team was what, 3rd, 4th line?
Yeah, 4th line, and I played 4 minutes. I remember, and there's a PEI connection with Doug McLean and them, but so I'm playing.
Oh, really? Doug McLean likes PEI? I've never heard about that before.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't know that unless you were dead.
Deep
unless you've ever seen him
PEI.
speak for 5 minutes, yeah, you wouldn't know. Go ahead.
So yeah, I played. We played 4.5 minutes. I was playing with Jody Shelley on my wing, and
wow.
I don't know. It was one year early on in the year. Doug calls both of us in, and he says, "You guys are playing, 4.5 minutes." He goes, "My daughter could play 4.5 minutes in the NHL." He goes, "You guys just don't worry about curfew."
Oh wow. That's
a solid one.
Well, I've often heard too. Linger has told me stories about it because I'd like to know what it's like. We were boys, me and Linger, when we were called up in Montreal. I tell this story. Linger, you played a game or 2 there. I remember being on the bench with you. If you're on the bench, I got a few of these. I don't know if you do. You don't get one shift. It's not even a game played. But I remember when Linger and I, it might have been exhibition or whatever it was, but we played so little one of those games you played in Montreal, I was dressed, and we used to play the clock game. Now, Linger, you introduced me to it, but we would look up, and I don't remember the exact rules, but we'd just bet on when the clock would stop, and it'd be $100 one way, or is that the way we did it?
Yeah, when the whistle blew, what the number was on the last digit with the number.
Yeah. So I'd say like, okay, Linger, I'll take 8, you take 5. $100, and we'll wait. If it didn't, then it'd double, and we'd go up. And so, like, someone would be up $500 or $600 at the end of the game. That was our NHL experience until that point. So I was pumped for Linger to get up. 3 stories on those games. So if you sat on the bench, you got a game towards your pension, but you didn't get a games played. Yeah.
So I did 15 in a row where I didn't get a shift. One time he comes into Fredericton and says, "You're going up to Buffalo to fight Barnaby." I'm like, "Oh my God! Like, what? Why are you telling me now? Well, can't you just tell me after warm up?"
Yeah, I know. You don't even really need to tell you that.
Be on pins and needles for like 36 hours.
Yeah.
So I go there, not a shift, shit my pants all night, can't sleep, go out, tell Barnaby that just give me a chance, don't make me look like an idiot. No shifts, sent back down. Thanks very much.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
Wait, they told you that you were going to fight him, and then they didn't have you fight him after.
Right.
Fuck.
48 hours before. 48 hours before.
Well, that's
a
just
little bit
mind
of warfare.
fuck. That's
Yeah,
mean,
no kidding. Psychological warfare there.
And then
that
one of my 3 games in Montreal was in Philadelphia, and he put me, Dave Wilkie, and Darcy Tucker on.
Dave Wilkie's a defenseman. He played up front.
In our own zone, and they put the Legion of Doom line on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So the coaches get up on the bench, and they're like waving like they've seen a ghost, like, hurry up, get off the ice. So we're in our zone. We're the closest bench. Lindros wins the draw. Coffee misses it through the middle. It goes all the way down the ice. We skate as fast as we can to the bench, sit on the bench. 3 seconds is one of my games.
3 seconds. That's hilarious.
I mean, at this point too, like you're probably like a few years removed from knowing that Eric Lindros can just ragdoll you around a fucking bedroom. So.
Pick you up with one hand.
But that.
They're all 6'4". Like Renberg and Leclerc were huge too. Like, it was just like, thank God. Like, I don't even want to be out
That
here.
was my first game was against those guys, man. Holy fuck. Huge. Yeah, size doesn't matter. It would certainly seem to then. But that's the other thing. That's why, boys, now you see why I used to get pissed off. David Wilkie's a fucking defenseman. So I used to sit there and go, what? He's a right-handed shooting defenseman playing left wing on the 4th line. Like, what would it hurt you to bring me up and throw me into that game?
Was this Terrian again? Was this Terrian in the big club then?
No.
Okay.
See, but the thing is with me, not to get too much into it, we'll get into it another show, but the guys who drafted me were Serge Sabard and Jacques Demers. So Reggie Houle took over. Of all of them, I didn't have a problem with Reggie. He was nice to me. I just didn't find him to be a great GM. And he calls me in at the end of my first year. He says, "What's your goals?" And again, I was rookie of the year in the minors, but that was the year with Linger. And what's your goal next year? I said, to make the Habs. And he's like, "Oh, Jesus, that's pretty, you assume you're..."
The fuck are you supposed to say?
Well, that's what I figured. But then, so the interview, about 8 minutes in, I say 8 minutes, I don't know how long, but it was well into the interview. And it was the end of the year meeting is what it was. And he says, well, and he keeps looking down at his paper. And he's like, so, like, what do you think you can do in the NHL? I said, well, I think if you play me, I can get 20 goals. And he's like, Jesus. And then he looks at it and he goes, oh, Russ. I said, no, Terry. He says, Terry Ryan. I went, oh, geez, yeah, I'm only your number 1 fucking prospect in the minors. And I've been up as a black ace for the last 2 weeks practicing with your team.
It's like the Curb Your Enthusiasm music
but he would,
play.
and I don't want to take away from Linger's interview because we're going to get back to it, but that was often the case, and I would get pissed off. Linger'd go up, like, Linger's a scorer who can mix it up a little bit. I guess he ended up playing on the 4th line in Columbus, but to put him out with Dave Wilkie and Tucker at the end of a game against the Legion of Doom is throwing. How do you build confidence? We were talking about the guy in Edmonton, dude, fucking, and Peterson and how to get them confidence. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not by putting them out in that situation. Yeah. Same thing. I remember like my first shift one game in the 3rd period in our own end against Toronto 1-1. I'm like, fuck, don't put me out at all. Like, or put me out in the 1st period. Yeah. Or, and sorry, it wasn't 1-1. It was like 4 or 5-1 because it was a fight. I was never out there late when it was 1-1. So, like, you get put in these situations, and I thought at the time they did a brutal job of that. But anyway, especially with Linger, I mean, he ends up, so many guys off that team ended up going to play in other places. So, Linger, that happens shortly after, and that's great. You got your year in the NHL, highlighted by, got to be the Derek Morris fight. No?
Yeah, that put me on the map a little bit. It was...
well, it's still shown. I mean, it got like fucking 50,000 views online.
But do you remember when he came out of junior at 18? I fought him in the minors. That I thought I don't know if he wanted to get me back or because he kind of started that one in Columbus.
Yeah, watching it, it looked like he wanted to go, and you were more or less like everything short of a shrug, being like, "Well, if you want to go, we'll go," and then it was over as fast as it began. Really.
Now Linger. I don't even know what else to say about that. That's any other person we had on. We'd kind of talk about that more because it was certainly a punch of the air. Anybody wants to look at it, it's on YouTube. David Ling versus Derek Morris. But I'm going to keep going with the hockey stuff because there's two interesting things. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I don't want to lose this story, guys. We're an hour in, and I'm going to go a little bit out of chronological order here. Because I want you to explain the Oklahoma City Barons a couple years ago, Linger. So, boys, Linger not only played in the East Coast League up until real recently last season, but 2 years ago, Linger's playing. So our buddy, he mentioned Jerry Fleming. Jerry Fleming was our assistant coach, actually played with us in Fredericton 1 year. So he was assistant coach the next. But Jerry ended up coaching Oklahoma City, which was Edmonton's farm team just a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Coach, my buddy Zach O'Brien, that plays for the Growlers, was playing in the A then. Ended up playing for Jerry. Well, Jerry sees Linger as playing in the coast. So now Linger ends up playing for Oklahoma City in the AHL as a 40-fucking-2-year-old and scores a fucking highlight goal. Take us through that. I'm assuming Jerry called you up. I really don't know, Linger. Tell me what happened. What time of year is it as well?
I think they had a couple issues with immigration, not just with paperwork, and a couple of them couldn't get in, so they needed some players.
Where were you playing?
I was playing in Brampton in the East Coast League, right in Toronto. So they were playing the Marlies, and so Jerry called and said he wanted me and two other guys. So three of us went down, and it was good to see Jerry. And I was like, holy fuck, I don't know if I can play anymore in this league. And Jerry goes, "Oh, it'll be all right. It'll be good. You'll be fine." So 7 minutes in, I pick a pocket and go in and slap shot goal. I was just like, wow, this is pretty cool. It felt like I was 20 again.
What were you, Linger?
I think it was 9
years.
9 years between the AHL goals.
And even the one 9 years earlier, you would have been old. I mean, well, yeah, in the A Shade. How many guys? 9 years earlier, he would have been 32 or 33. I mean, just think about it. How that's
not what it's telling me here, David. And it's saying here that you had 8 goals with the Providence Bruins in 2010, 2011.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was when I came back from Russia.
Okay, now I was going to go there.
He really has been everywhere.
Oh yeah, I forgot. And Providence must have played you sparingly because your numbers were down there. But before we even get there, Linger, what happened in Russia? Crazy shit. No normal shit. Tell me, how did you get there, and what was that experience like? We've had a couple of guys on here, and each one has told us some things that are fucking bonkers. Did you see anything bonkers? You went back for a second year, so you must have liked it.
So I go, my first year I signed with Moscow Dynamo, and I go over there, and I hear stories like they're going to put you on the ice. They're going to tell you that the contract's not ready. They're going to put you on the ice, try you out. So I said, I'm not going on until I get some money.
It's fair.
Good.
So this is the old Super League. This isn't the KHL either. This was before. So 3 days went by and there was still him and Han. My buddy was playing down the street in Moscow with Spartak, Tyler Moss. And I said, he called me up and says, we'll take you. So I said, here's my agent, bang, same contract, go down there. And as I'm leaving, they run out with a bag of money thinking they're going to try to save me.
A literal bag of money?
Literally a bag of money. So I'm like, yeah, no, I don't trust you guys. I'm going down
Jesus,
here. So
you're stronger than me, man.
Yeah, a bag of money, and then you get trailed on the way home
in fucking Russia.
So I go down there, and about the money, the first time I get paid, we go up into this. We're an old rink, and we go up into the attic, and we all line up outside, and it's honestly like it rewound to 1920 in a movie. Everything, I just like, where am I? So we go, they call my name and I go into this little door, and then in the door, it's probably an 8x10 closet. And there's an old lady sitting at an old desk with a counter and a big mail bag. And there's a big guy behind her with a gun.
Holy fuck.
So I go in, say my name. She looks on the sheet of paper, puts her hand in the money bag. All this $100 US dollar bills come out, and she drops it in the counter, and she hands me my check.
It's like a fucking cartoon.
Holy, this sounds like a fucking mob movie.
Yeah.
So I sign the paper. I'm like, what am I going to do with this money? I can't take it home. I can't take this money home. I got to get it to the bank. So I give it to the general manager, and he puts it in the safe. And I leave the rink, and I go downtown to meet the guys that we used to drink with. So I come back home and my apartment's ransacked. So they think I brought my money back. So it's an inside job. Well, someone on the team, or like not the player, but someone was in my apartment looking for my money.
Jesus.
So I call the GM and I said, someone broke into my apartment. They come over and they're the GM sitting there, and then about like 9 cops coming. The old 1940 movies, that's the uniforms they have on. And this girl comes in with these glasses on and starts shaking powder against the wall, trying fingerprinting all this stuff.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, where am I? And then the GM goes, he's talking to the lead investigator, and he goes, do you mind going down to the store and getting us some beer? So I went down and got these guys beer while they're investigating my apartment robbery.
Jesus, so what ended up happening?
So they took they didn't find my money, but they took all my electronics and all. The only stuff they took was my NHLPA stuff. Like, they wanted my NHLPA stuff. I don't know why. Like, the others, go ahead.
You mean like clothes and shit?
Yeah, clothes and stuff like that. And then all my electronics, they actually took my NHLPA card, which was, that card, that was golden.
Oh my God. Yeah. I still got one. It's still
mine
opens doors.
Mine got stolen. So there was probably about $20,000 worth of stuff stolen. So they're investigating. I'm sure they came to the conclusion that it was an inside job, because the way the windows were open, there's no way someone could climb up and pull the window out, because they'd fall off the ledge. They pulled them out. So I think they realized that. So I said I had to go home to see my kids, but I said I was going home for a court divorce thing in court. And so they were like, yeah, but you need to bring a judge's letter saying that that's true. I'm like, well, I know a judge in PEI. I can do that. That's no problem.
I was waiting for that line. I was waiting for it.
That's easy solution. You don't even know English. So I get the letter. I come back and I want the police report to go through insurance. So they said, do you have the letter from the judge? I'm like, yeah. They go, well, give it to us. I said, yeah, why don't we exchange that for the police report? And they're like, well, we don't have the police report. I said, well, you get it. And then when you give it to me, I'll give you the judge's letter. So a couple weeks went by, nothing was said. They came back and said, we need the judge's letter. I'm like, I have the judge's letter. I need the police report. And then they stopped asking. They didn't ask again for the judge's thing. And I didn't get the police report.
But you played there the rest of the season.
Yeah, I played there the rest of the season. We didn't get paid from January to April.
Jesus.
It's a long stretch.
And this is where you went because the other team was fucking you around on a contract.
Yeah. So then this team didn't play us. So I have a meeting in the dressing room. I said, boys, let's not play. Let's just make them pay us. They're like, no, that's not how it works. Every other owner, every other team will think we're like going against them. We'll be screwed. We'll be blackballed. So I called my agent. He says, did you make enough money yet this year? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And he goes, well, if you leave, you're not getting it. If you stay, you might get it.
Wow.
I'm like, all right. So I stayed. We ended up leaving. I go back home. We end up leaving. The team gets sponsored by someone else, and they have to pay their debts. So we're starting to get told that we're going to get our money. Well, I get my money, and 2 weeks later, the guy that is now sponsoring the team dies in a plane crash, and the team had to take a year off. But me and the other import got the money. All the Russians didn't get their money.
Jeez.
Wow.
You think the cops, quote unquote, the cops you went and bought beer for were just a couple of fellas in outfits that the team owned? Yeah. Because that's the first thing. It's the first thing I'm thinking.
I think they were connected. I don't think the GM knew exactly who did it, but I think they realized that there was an inside job.
I'm just thinking the reason you didn't get a police report, it's like this is, I don't know, 6 good friends and we own these outfits.
And they were actually just like you said, they were like the old uniforms out of a movie, and they literally were like, they raided a wardrobe department from somewhere.
The dusting powder, she's just got all-purpose flour and fucking up your apartment.
I think they just wanted my beer.
Yeah, fuck.
But Linger, you were like, you were, I guess, had moved on from the A. How did you get back with Providence after that? I mean, it's hard enough for a 23-year-old to go to Europe and come back, let alone a 33-year-old.
It's kind of funny. The issue was I was in my last year in Russia. I was Alex McGillney was like the GM, and I was captain in Russia, if you can believe that one. Wow. So we're there. I'm there for a month and a half. They fire the coach, and in Russia, the coaches and the agents are working together. So when the new coach comes in, they fire if it's not the same agent, the agent comes in and he gets new players because the agent and the player, or the agent and the coach, are sharing money.
That sounds about right.
So they're making money. Each of them are making money. So they bring in their own players. So I got fired. I ended up calling a buddy, Wayne Smith, who was head scout in Boston at the time. I said, "Do you guys need any?" Because I needed to work in the U.S. I was going to end up playing in the coast because I needed to work in the U.S. to apply for my green card at the time. I couldn't be outside the U.S. when I was doing it. So I'm like, this would be a good opportunity to go get it. I called Wayne. I said, "Do you have any? Do you know anyone that needs a wily vet?" And he's like, "You know what? Let me make a call. I think we do." So he calls me back and says, "You know what? Well, prorated for $80,000. Will you take that?" I'm like, "Take that? I would have took $2,000. I just want to live. I just want to live there."
Excellent negotiator.
And he says, "Okay, let me call you back."
That's actually great, though. That's pretty good to prorate for $80,000 in the situation you were in. I think that's not bad, but
yeah. And chances are the Bruins are going to pay you, so that's actually
exactly.
And I got all my money before I left Russia. Like, it was like, absolutely, I'll take that.
It was a win-win. Okay, so the year happens, which was, you did your job in Providence, and then Italy. But
first off, in Providence, my coach is Rob Murray. Remember him in Springfield?
I remember playing against Rob, yeah.
Well, he held a grudge because I used to.
You did. I was firsthand. I was going to say you went at him a few times, and he was a similar kind of player.
Yeah, so I think I held a grudge. Like, he played me for a bit, and then it was just kind of like he just didn't want anything to do with me.
I see.
But that was also the year the Bruins won the cup. So like, did you guys have people come? Like, what was kind of the atmosphere like in the junior, in the A club while the Bruin, like the big club was going on the tear?
I was there. There wasn't that many call-ups, so it wasn't like there was a lot of connection in the. If there was more call-ups, you would feel more of a bond between the Bruins. So it was kind of like it was two separate identities. Yeah. There was a lot of good prospects, but none of them were being up and down. Yeah,
I'm just looking through it, but from that team, not many guys actually saw much ice time with the Bruins that season.
Ryan Spooner might have been around then, was he? No.
Yeah, he came out of junior that year. I don't know if he was 18. I don't know if he was 19. I don't know the age, but him and another fella came out of junior at the time. They were I forget the other guy's name.
I feel that era of the Bruins, not a lot of them are left.
No.
Yeah, I was just
not from like their like the only system. Like there's Jordan Caron is there. Matt Barkowski was on that team with you. And actually, Barkowski was right behind you in points. But just looking at it, it's Hudobin was playing. Hudobin and Hutchinson were the goalies that year. So, Kevin Miller. Kevin Miller was on that team with you guys.
The best guy that year was he walks in with huge sunglasses on, his hood up, big chew in his mouth, headphones in, sits down and doesn't talk to anyone.
Oh, fuck.
So I'll tell you the name after. Great guy. So first day goes by, doesn't talk to anyone. He's pissed that he's down. And he goes on the ice. The next day he comes in the same similar outfit. So he's sitting there just banging his head. So I go over and wipe his eyes like he's like anyone in there.
And
he's
well received, I'm sure.
And he starts to giggle. So now I got him. So and then he kind of opened up, but it was McGrattan. He But the first 2 days, it was just like, holy, what's going on here? What kind of Martian just came out from the moon into this ring?
Interesting.
I was going to guess Miro Satan. He was also in that Bruin system at the time. No, he wasn't? I'm wrong?
You are wrong.
Shit. Year or two early.
Linger, so one thing leads to another, and yet another couple stints in Europe. Now, you go to Nottingham in the English Elite League, I believe it's called, which is a pretty good league. Now, Linger's a smart guy. Everybody in PEI knew his father, who was a doctor, and not that really matters to this. It matters in the same. And what does your mom do, Linger?
She was a nurse, yeah.
Yeah, there's a high intellect in the family, so it didn't surprise me. But Linger, often when we play, you choose hockey or school. We always could have not gone to pro hockey and taken our school package, which a lot of guys do. But, as a prospect, you go and you live out your hockey dream. But like me, I got a late degree. Well, Linger goes to Nottingham, and that was part of the deal. So didn't they put you through school, and now you've got your MBA, right?
Yeah, so that was part of their... They didn't pay as much there, but that was their drawing card. And when I first went there, they were like, "We'll get you in a master's." I'm like, "Well, the only one I'll do is the MBA." And they're like, "Well, we can't do that. You don't have an undergrad, whatever. You can't get in." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not coming. I'm not coming." And they're like,
"It's as simple as that. Either get me in to do my MBA without schooling, or I'm not coming."
So 2 weeks later, we figured it out. You can come do the MBA. I'm like, "All right." So fast forward, we have, I'd probably had my best year. The team, we won everything over there, and I got my MBA. So that was like, that was.
And what did the MBA
year.
consist of, Linger? You had to do a thesis, didn't you? Pretty in depth.
Yeah, it was a 14 months. I was probably at the library 8 hours a day. So it was courses all through the year, and then I had to do a 3-month thesis and pass it all and figure that out.
A, that's rare in the hockey world. B, it's fucking rare to get an MBA without an undergrad. I
kind of fool people because I got the PEI accent with no T, so I sound like just like complete redneck. So that no one even puts that I can even read.
I get that too. I know what you feel like. And is that where they're riding behind the Zamboni? They're doing the water ski behind the Zamboni. Anybody listening now, you just YouTube it, David Ling water ski and Zamboni. Is that where it started?
Yeah. So what happened there was, 6,500 in the rink, good crowd.
Yeah.
We're winning 7-1. And the only reason I bring that up is because if you watch it, when I'm doing it, I stop at center because I didn't want to go into their zone and rub it in too much.
Yeah,
What
There's always boundaries, eh?
What happened was the refs came out on the ice and they shut the penalty box door and the glass broke. So the ice is already done, but the Zamboni comes back out to clean up the broken glass on the ice. So I sitting on the bench and I look over to one of the guys and I said, "Watch this."
Oh boy, I can see that you must have worked up some balls to go up and do that, though. It looks fucking hilarious online.
No, but if I would have said it then thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. As I was saying it, my feet were out the door, so there was no turning back.
That's fantastic. So, anyway, look, I wanted to sum all that up. I guess before you go, I should ask you about Bates. So your son, now your oldest son, is what, bantam age?
Yeah, he's playing AAA in Charlottetown.
And he's doing pretty well, isn't he? I mean,
yeah, and they not disrespecting the other teams, but they didn't lose any games this year, and they're in the playoffs, so they'll probably be in the Atlantics. So they'll probably play a Newfoundland team in the Atlantics if it works out the way it's supposed to.
Every once in a while, I run into Linger in the rinks around Atlantic Canada, but for that reason, are you? Is there anything being hosted in Newfoundland this year?
No, I think the Atlantics are in Halifax somewhere.
Okay, well, now, boys, do you guys have any stories? Didn't you have...
I got one thing here, Dave. If you want to go up against... I'm going to pit you and Terry have been talking for a good while here. I'm going to pit you guys against one another in a game of one-timers. I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions. You guys got to say who's the better at these things. They're going to be on and off the ice. You guys up for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know what's coming either. I don't know
here's
what's
the
coming.
thing. Here's the thing. You've done this one-timers thing before.
Yeah, it didn't.
But I'm going to point out that it was the worst one-time setup. Like you're waiting with your stick. Like you're waiting with your fucking. Like if you're waiting to pick up this one-timer, you're waiting a fucking while. It's getting picked up.
They're going to be quick. They're going to be quick.
What do I answer? How do I answer?
It's going to be. It's pretty obvious. This is all you versus Terry here, boys. Who's the better cook?
Terry.
Terry, you agree?
I think just by default.
Okay.
He doesn't cook much.
I can do toast.
Okay. Who's the better on ice chirp?
Definitely Linger.
I am.
There's no doubt.
Who's the overall tidier person on the road?
I am for sure.
Yeah, for sure him. For sure him.
Most likely to fuck up going into the zone and cause an offside.
Me.
Maybe so, just because that extra stutter step, but it comes with the territory.
Terry was faster.
Who's more likely to just turn it on when the backup goalie's in?
Terry.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm not even laughing when I say that for sure.
All right, you guys were on the road a lot together. Who snores? Who's the worst roommate snorer?
Linger snores when he's boozing.
That was every night.
Well, quite a bit. We went to the bar quite a bit, but you've had a few. Definitely, I remember loud, sleeping on his back. Yep.
This one's interesting, judging by what we talked about. Who's often to get the bill more at the end of the night?
Terry had more money.
Back then, yeah. But that's not a joke. That often is the way you do it. He was my line mate, and I was making sick fucking cheddar. My friend, I was called up for like a week or two. Every time I get called up, guys, it was like $5,000 a day.
Nice. Now you guys can answer either of you, or you can just dunk on an old teammate. Who was the loudest guy on a late bus ride?
Definitely Linger.
Oh yeah.
Oh fuck! Loud? If the word loud is, I know you're looking at me and going, "What?" I talk a lot and I raise my voice, but you're saying loud. You're saying loud in general.
Decibels. We're talking.
Yeah, me not even close.
Yeah. All right. And who was most? You guys already answered this though. Who's most likely to wander off and miss a bus ride? Which I actually had written down here, but we know the answer to that, so you don't have to answer.
Kind of both of us, but the thing about me and Linger. We didn't break rules. We were always treading the line.
Always bending.
If we were late for just say Tyrion would impose curfew. Usually, I say the word curfew a lot, but there's not usually curfew in pro hockey. But
if curfew was at 11, we came home at 5:02 drunk.
Yeah, and before we left. We'd buy everybody shots and try to get them there. Like, we'd make sure to get everybody all fucked up, line them up with girls. Here you go, boys. Just for a laugh, not to fuck anybody over, just for a laugh. I remember Linger used to come on the ice then and everybody'd be fucking hungover, and Linger would go, hey, and he'd call for a pass, and then you'd give it to him, and he'd fucking lift his stick up and act like he didn't see you, and fucking the coach would be fucking all over you. Shit, just always something. But we were just shit disturbing. That's the way it went, right? We were shit disturbers, so to miss the bus, I don't know if that happened, but to hide the bus, Linger.
Hide the bus.
Yeah. So we'd be,
that's not even a euphemism. You just hide the buses.
Yeah.
It's covering like trees and bushes and shit in front of it.
That's Gulliver's fault for him, not automatic.
Oh, Jesus. Now, do you got anything, Mike?
It's hard because at this point we're a ways in. We've been talking to Linger for a while, and it's just like we haven't even talked about his time in St. John's with the Maple Leafs. And I want to talk about that so much, but I feel like it's like even just opening that up is just asking for another 3 hours of podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, Linger. You know what? You've been here for an hour and a half almost, and I appreciate it. I guess could we ask one more story, and this would be anything from St. John's. I mean, I was here during that time. What a great fucking bunch of guys they had on that team.
Is there bars there?
Holy fuck!
No, I think you shut them all down.
It's a dry county, actually. It's a dry city.
But the other thing that I thought was really cool about your time in St. John's is that when you played the season for, it was just before you went over to Russia. It was during the lockout year.
It was a lockout year, yeah.
And you led that team in points and penalty minutes, I think. No, not penalty minutes. Holy shit. But you were third in penalty minutes and led the team in points during that lockout year. So, I mean.
Yeah, we had a great. Kyle Wellwood, me and him, we had a good year. We played well together. And it's funny because we were tied most of the year, and we talked about let's just end up tied. Camilleri and Spezza are ahead of us in the scoring race. We finished third and fourth. But so the last game of the year, we're tied, and I'm like, yeah, we got to be tied. But I end up going down on a breakaway, and I didn't get a pass from him, and I had a breakaway, no goalie in the net. So I turned backwards, hoping that I could dish it off to him so we could tie, but he was nowhere in sight, and it was 3-2. I had to put it in, so I put it in and giggle.
Wow, that's great.
That's a teammate move there, though.
Welly's actually part of Head Check Health. They sponsor us, and I told him that I might have you on soon, and he said to say hi. I don't know if you guys still talk, but you were magic on the ice together.
Yeah, he came over. He came to PEI a couple times in the summer for a couple outings. He was a real good guy.
Right on. Well, that's great. It's great to hear. And Linger, look, I appreciate. I got 1,000 things, boys. Maybe. Look, you know what? I think
we're having you back.
I think this show is going to end up being one that repeats guys a little bit. I mean, Asham was great. Well, everybody was, but. You know, we didn't touch the surface with these guys, and we're an hour and a half in.
Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, I think that we definitely got to have you back, David, and go a little bit in deep on some other stuff too.
And Linger, I got to go to Clarenville. I got a playoff game tonight, man. It's not only you still at it.
Are you still on the PP?
Yeah. Oh, I am on the PP, Linger.
Okay,
yeah,
yes.
For a couple of years I had to work my way back, but I'm on it. Listen.
Good luck, because I got game 6. I got game 6 in Whitby. We're up 3-2.
Are you okay? I was going to ask you how you guys were doing. So, and who's that one series, and what's the other series?
Stony Creek already won.
Oh, did they? Is Cam Fergus playing?
Yeah, he's playing. Yep.
Okay. Oh, just a shout out. He was a buddy that played here.
He played for the Cataracts.
Matty Bragg. He's up there playing too.
I don't think he's playing this year though. I haven't seen him.
So you know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, I guess you know, Matt. What am I thinking? Well, look, good luck, Linger. We'll talk outside of this, and I'm going to see you real soon. I got a couple of you got to come. I got a couple of movies coming out. One I'm in a little bit, and the premiere might be in Toronto, which would be an absolute fucking jam of a time. So I'm going to be there soon either way. If it's not that, I got a speech coming up in April. So hopefully,
I can't believe I know a movie star.
Yeah, you shut the fuck up. I'm not a movie star either. I'm not a movie star.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
David,
so much.
thank you so much.
We'll have you back again soon.
Sounds good, bud.
Okay, love you, buddy. See you.
Bye.
Penny Posh, maternity wear reimagined, breaking the barriers of style, fit, and comfort that often leave mothers-to-be uninspired in their new wardrobe. Penny Posh's designs have reinvented a clothing category often seen as disposable, temporary, and unattractive. Well, not with Penny Posh. Check it out. A continuous fit maternity collection from bump to bundle and beyond. You can check them out on Twitter at Penny_Posh, on Instagram at PennyPosh_maternity, and of course on their website, www.pennyposhdesigns.com. Penny Posh Designs, maternity wear reimagined.
All right, another big thank you to David Ling for coming on and chatting to us for quite a while. We had him on. That was great to have him on that long. One question we didn't get to, not even with David, but this was actually during the oh baby moment, is did you bring us back any of the Terry Ryan t-shirts?
Good question.
I got some on the way. I did. I left them there, but the Mary Gates of the Tri-City Americans is sending some over, so
all right,
they'll be here soon. Yeah, it was
they're
overwhelming.
beauties, and I want one.
I couldn't even believe it. It was a laugh, man. They did them up for me, and that went over well.
All right, but again, yeah, thanks to you, David, for that. I can't wait for my T-shirt. We do have Terry after the interview, which is the first time in a bit that I think because of the
you got me
playoffs.
for 10 minutes.
He's got a puck drop literally in like 6 hours,
and that's at least a 4-hour drive or 3-hour drive away. 2 hours on a bus? I don't fucking know.
Well, I got to eat halfway, so
yeah.
it's. Got to eat at around 3 o'clock. Yeah, we're leaving on the bus at 2.
Yeah,
stopping into Whitburn for a
all right,
bite.
You got it.
Monty's. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, but we do have a hashtag hot take that came at us this week.
We got a quick hashtag hot take. We touched on the Darren Coburn episode. We touched on the Kotkaniemi.
And he said it. Hey, he
I
pronounced
got it
the
right.
name
I got it right. I've been working, guys. I've been working. But from Twitter, Zach Snow brings up not only the go into this California trip, which is the Habs playoff livelihood.
Yep.
And you sit down, a guy like Kotkaniemi, they don't start Price for the duration of the trip. And he felt that was, I guess, a hot take from a coach's standpoint this late in the season. He's your go-to guy.
And here's the thing, is that I get the concept of someone saying, oh, you want to like give Price some rest before a playoff. But if you need him to get to the playoffs in the fucking first place.
You can't. In my opinion, you can't be at this point resting people for the playoffs if you are clawing, scratching, fighting your way into the playoffs. I said it before earlier. I have been watching these East standings.
Yeah, it's
like with the maddening. I've been reviewing people's schedules. I've just been, you've been
going a bit nuts.
Yeah,
and like the Kotkaniemi thing, I understand. It's like we talked about it Tuesday night. He's a rookie. He wasn't supposed to have this kind of workload under this kind of pressure.
TR said it himself. He probably asked for it. It was brilliant. I would have never thought that, and that's a brilliant take. I don't think Price asked for this.
Paying care, no. Apparently, what I've heard is that it's kind of like a fucking thing with Price. As part of his deal, is he gets X numbers of days off, like in terms of starts after so many starts. Like apparently, it's part of his fucking contract or some shit. But if that's the case, regardless of that, you're paying him what, $10 million a year? Whatever it is,
it's in the nines. I know
you're paying him a shit ton of money. You're not sitting him like you expect him to fucking show up for the playoff push.
I would think. The first thing I will say before I start that I didn't think Niemi would play as that was pretty bad. He played terrible.
It was a 5.
Well, he lost him the game.
Price's game back in. He lets Anaheim tune him up for 8. They're one of the lowest scoring goals.
I know. With Price, I hate to say this. I love the guy, but I'm never
former Quesnel millionaire, former Tri-City American, and the Montreal Canadiens. He really he looks up to you. He follows you around.
Yeah. Well, he played. He had he was a Quesnel millionaire, Tri-City American, Montreal Canadian. Like I said, he didn't have to stop in Fredericton or Boise, Idaho, of course, but he had a similar path. But
Hamilton counts as Fredericton in this point.
True enough. But point being, I love Carey. I think he's a great goalie and a great leader in the room on one of the most respected franchises in all of sports. But there's not going to be a time ever that I'm ever convinced again that he's not injured. So this could be injury time. This could be every year something happens. He's a goalie. He's down, up. He's down, up. He's had that many injuries that have been pretty bad. I don't remember exactly what they were. They were joint stuff, though. It wasn't like he had a bruise in the middle of his arm. It was like knees or elbows or something.
Hip trouble that year he stepped on a puck. I believe it was hip trouble that year he stepped on a puck.
It's not great.
No.
So you're only getting older. You're not getting any younger. That's the one constant in all of our lives, is that we're on time. You just deteriorate over time. And it's a terribly pessimistic way to look at it.
Getting philosophical here on the 3 podcast.
He's been injured so much that I don't think now they'd even want to come out and say it. So if you see him miss 4 or 5 games in a row, there could be a nagging injury, man.
I think part of this to me almost felt like, okay, well, you might have to flip one of them. Niemi played a lot in San Jose. He's definitely on the way out of the NHL. Maybe it's the coach saying, okay, well, this is the end of the year. You played here a lot. This has kind of been your home for a while. We're going to throw you in against the Sharks.
Put it that way.
But I mean, the other one is to look at it of like, you want to give Price some rest. You play him against Anaheim, and did they play him against Anaheim?
Yes, they got tuned up, but there were nights off in the middle. It's not like these are back to back.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to give Price the night off, you do it against the game that, like, the Sharks are likely going to take the Habs. That's a more kind of gimme loss than anything else, right?
Yeah. But they're clustering out, man. It's a lot of parity. I don't know about a gimme loss.
I just mean, like, you consider when they played the Kings. And you would have thought that the Ducks would be kind of slam dunk wins for them. So if you're going to take the loss, give the loss to Niemi.
I've been counting their points. I've been counting their points with a little pencil. I'll say it again. It's really weird to hear a Leafs fan follow the Habs so well in hopes that they make the playoffs. But I've been following along, penciling in certain games that were, a win and a loss for sure. I had them best case picking up an overtime loser point against San Jose, providing Price stood on his head. Price wasn't even fucking there.
Yeah.
I had not even pencil. I took out a blue pen and wrote 2 next to the Anaheim Ducks. TR's got a puck drop in a couple of 6 hours. I'd take his team out in Clarenville to beat this Ducks team.
Well, the Ducks are in a bad place. But the other thing, getting back to Niemi, if I was going to play him, not for the reason of give me lost, for the reason that he had so much success in San Jose.
Yeah.
And I mean, guys, I only saw the highlights, but
it was bad.
And didn't like 3 go in on 8 shots, so he lost them the game.
It was bad.
But you would think where would you think he would rise to the occasion?
I feel he should rise to the occasion to play
He's
play.
in
I
San
feel
Jose.
the smart coaching move would be okay. The Ducks are literally by a touchdown the lowest scoring team right now. That's who you give your backup to.
That's what I would have done. Yeah,
if it was a situation of being like, hey, this guy's on the way out of the NHL. This is a tap on the back.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a room for that in a team that is clawing to get into the playoffs. I feel that you've got to put on the best chances to get any point you can.
Me, I play Price, both of them, by the way.
Same. Yeah. That's exactly what I
can
said.
see the option to put in Niemi for that set. But you make a good point. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion in San Jose, but the Anaheim Ducks suck. But, they're going for Grant Fuhr in 95-96 played fucking 79 games. I think that's the most ever.
He played 1 game short of a complete season under Mike Keenan for the St. Louis Blues. That's back when there was 84 game seasons. There's a year where Grant Fuhr played 82 games.
Imagine.
I can't possibly. And he was older then. This isn't like a young man.
He was older.
He was older.
He was mid-30s. But now the thing,
79.
Was it
No, there was a couple in the playoffs, but 79 games. Yeah.
So, but my point now, that's too much. But if that's the case, and you're making $10 million, and you need these games, for me, I got Price in the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Now that's
You
just
have
me.
to.
And if not, I mean, this is where you make your money.
Yeah.
So again, if he's not, something, a little birdie in my head is telling me that maybe something's tweakish, or you don't want to do this. I'm not saying he's injured right now, but if you're erring on the side of maybe let's sit him down, the guy who's making $10 million more than, sit him down. I don't know. Not something to be totally angry at if you're a fan, but raises a little bit of a red flag for me. Why?
But the bigger thing to that is that in a month, when the season's wrapping up and the Montreal Canadiens,
season's done in a month,
and when the Montreal Canadiens miss the playoffs by 3 points, how does this get looked at then?
they're going to make it. I'm telling you, man, they're going to make it.
Well,
When they miss by 3 points.
I know, but you coulda, shoulda, woulda the whole year away.
Oh, I know.
Well, you could pick any game that they drop or they blow a third period lead.
I think that this is the one that's close enough to the end of the year.
Recency
when the biggest
bias.
push is
This'll
recency
be-
bias
Yeah.
with the push on that, against, these kind of clubs when it's just like, okay, the weird sitting of star players during this Western road trip when they should be looking at picking up points. That's to me where you look back and go, boys, like maybe that was the wrong call there.
I guess with the success that they've had this year, everyone's, I don't want to use the word unfireable, but I guess like this was a team that was like, oh geez, they were supposed to be down in the basement with the Senators, and now they're fighting. So I guess it's
I guess it's one of those like
maybe it's a
My
level
other
of
thing with
comfort.
that is that we all had him down in the basement.
Yeah.
I don't think Mark Bergevin or them ever really thought. Rebuild
but no one
was
can ever
used.
tell what Mark
I was going to say, I don't want to think like Mark
Rebuild was
Bergevin.
used, but no one, after seeing what Vegas did, I will never bet against. I will never guarantee anybody not to make the playoffs again. That was a slam dunk for me first year in the league. But go ahead, Chuck.
I'm gonna go and say the date is March the 9th.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say right now, next year's Ottawa Senators do not make the playoffs.
You never know, though, man.
All right.
I know.
And
I'm
wanna
not going to bet for them.
I want to congratulate the 2019-2020 Ottawa Senators on their Stanley Cup final
Weren't the Senators?
appearance.
How were the Senators at the halfway point this year?
Oh, terrible. They've been
They were,
terrible from the go.
Yeah.
Like they've been terrible. Like this Ottawa Senators team has been terrible since the offseason.
Okay, since the offseason.
Yeah.
Okay, how quick is that? A year ago, where were they? They were trading for Matt Duchene to win the cup.
No, that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
There's actually a fun Twitter thread.
But last
There's a
year-
fun Twitter thread where you can follow right from when they lose that overtime game to go to the finals, and it's a roller coaster.
That was 2 years ago, right? Now, so last year. What happened last year?
Is last year last year was the Carlson debacle. They fucked up the Erik Karlsson situation more
I know
than
that
people-
happened. I'm asking where they in the standings.
Oh, they didn't make the playoffs.
No,
A year
they
ago,
missed the
no,
playoffs.
but where were they? But the year before, it was sandwiched in between. Halfway through last year, they weren't totally. They still thought they had a shot.
I don't think they were in the conversation.
Okay, well,
post.
I
I'm
think
looking this up. They finished,
look
they
it up
finished
because I
second
think
last,
I'm right.
They finished second last in the Atlantic last year.
The Atlantic.
They were out of the playoffs.
Out of the playoffs.
And I
know they were out of the playoffs.
No, but I mean,
but it wasn't like this year.
No, it wasn't.
Kevin's
halfway through, they had a
wasn't
chance.
A basement.
No, this one. I'm just looking at the record. They finished the year. Their regular season record was the regular season record was 28-43.
When did Matt Duchene get traded to them?
Oh, that was the year prior.
Yeah.
And in that year, that was the year they lost in the third round.
They were going. Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
That was they were
less than
gunning up.
They basically flipped their record over the course of a season.
So 2 years ago, this is where they are.
Yeah.
Right? They're in the playoffs. They're hoping to win the Stanley Cup. Last year, they were mediocre, but planning to get back this year. They would, like a year ago, we wouldn't have said they're definitely going to be the last place team.
No.
I think there might be 4 guys come out of it next year. I don't even fucking know. Come out of nowhere. Like what? I know Vegas was a little different. Did anybody think the Islanders were going to be good this year?
A dude I work with named Tom, big Islanders fan. He said they're going to make the playoffs. He's pretty close.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
I was laughing
I thought
at him.
They would have been the worst.
I was
in the league.
laughing at him all
I thought
fall.
Vancouver would be terrible. I thought the Islanders. I didn't see Ottawa being okay. I'm not battling for the Ottawa Senators here because I think it's a fucking disaster.
We got to go on a high note compared to the Ottawa Senators.
But also, like
They can
in
turn
part
around.
of the
They
whole
can-
Ottawa Senators thing, I missed the point. It was just like I somehow missed it when Boucher got fired last week, where I suddenly was like watching a highlight and I was like, "What? They fucking hired Mark Crawford as their interim?"
Shit! Yeah, I forgot about
everything
that.
is
It got
interim now.
It got
But,
completely missed.
You know, guys, the other hard thing they're going to have, I think. I think with some prospects, and you never know how things can turn out in the game. Like the Montreal Canadiens, I'm using as an example. Did you see that coming? But first of all, I'll say 2 things. With the Senators, what they're doing to themselves, they're shooting themselves in the foot because it's hard for free agents to come in. Why the fuck would you come in there now? It doesn't matter what kind of drafting you got. You're not going to get any free agents like you. Not that they've always had any, but they've had a few that have come in. Didn't Heatley welcome Ottawa with open arms when he went there? I mean, it was a great contract too.
Kovalev. He was the big signing summer. He went. Sergei Gonchar. Sergei Gonchar was one of the big defensive names out there, and he welcomed. I think just after winning the cup. I don't think
that's going to happen anymore. And second of all, to get back to Montreal, I know what we might say in that. Well, no one expected. Okay, but still though, if you still miss the playoffs and I know no one expected anything, but they did. We all thought they'd suck. But clearly the organization didn't, and they were right that they weren't as bad as I thought. But if you miss the playoffs, it still doesn't matter. You're setting yourself. It's still a fucking disappointment. Just like Ottawa. Ottawa thought they were going to win, and then they became terrible. Fucking Montreal thought they were going to be terrible.
Yeah.
You start to win, you get the best out of Domi and these guys. I mean, I won't go down the list of fucking that. There's the center we were talking about.
Kotkaniemi.
No. Jesus, escaped my mind now. Deneau.
Oh, yeah, Philip Deneau. Yeah.
Deneau, I didn't expect him to have this kind of year. And every game I watch him, he plays like a leader a lot. And there's some guys on that team, Weber, Shaw, these guys that are gritty. You know, they rub off on the other guys. And Domi, and I can go down the list. But what I'm saying is that they started on fire.
Yep.
And they were in the playoffs so your expectations have to change. It was great, but now if you're sitting here, you can't be not disappointed if you're Montreal and you don't make it.
And that's the thing is like no matter what happens, even if you're expecting a bottom place performance, you get it. You're still disappointed.
If they'd been shit all year, I don't think it'd be disappointing because I guess they'd be expected. They'd just go all in on the rebuild.
Yeah,
but they're like for Ottawa, I'm sure that it's going to be a relief at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be.
But in Montreal, there's still going to be fingers wagging.
For guys with one year left,
dead last, and then still come in fourth in the fucking draft lottery.
Going to be they don't have a pick. They don't have a pick in the draft.
Oh right,
lottery.
They don't. Fuck, never mind.
Anyhow, it's March 9th. We're going to wrap it up here. TR's got a bus to catch. I don't want him late for that. We know what happens when people are late to the bus. Thanks to
Get
David
one of the
Ling.
boys to park behind the
hide the bus behind the Dollarama. And anyhow, I'm saying it right now. It's March 9th. The Habs will be in the postseason.
I'm saying that they're going to miss by a few points, and this road trip's going to get.
I got to go with them just because. And you know what? Not only do I cheer for them, although they're not I I cheer for friends, but I cheer for the Habs more than anything, boys, because of that fucking alumni space.
Yeah.
The further they make it, I'm allowed into the ring, and I'm allowed into the alumni room, and I use it.
And let's remember how much fun that's going to be on the Third Man In tour we do at some point.
Hey.
And we swing by Montreal to do a live show.
Like I said, hats off to them. We always talk. I had some bad experiences there, but overall it was fucking great, and they still welcome me with open arms. They're a great organization, great people, and they've exceeded my expectations. I hope they make it, so I'm going to say they do.
They're going to be there.
And one thing we didn't mention before we take off, just a reminder, keep an eye out on our social feed because we are working with Rant and Roar Entertainment to promote. They've got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat coming into town, into St. John's in a couple weeks, and we're giving away a couple tickets for that. So keep an eye on our social media feeds for ways to see that.
I'm just nodding and smiling about the premise of the Dragon.
Until next time, I'm Mike Hickey.
I'm Charles Pickett.
It's TR here.
And we are the Third Man In podcast, and we will be back to talk at you about hockey next week. See you guys.
See you guys.
See ya.